Chapter 194. Now the entire eastern wasteland is in chaos. When they heard this sentence from Xuanzang's mouth, even one of the three abbot of the western desert, divine monk Fa Hai, turned pale with fright. This news was really too shocking. The three holy lands of the eastern wasteland, the two great demon clans of the southern border, they actually collectively declared that the holy son of Haotian had fallen into the demonic path. Now they actually mobilized so many people. They collectively put pressure on the Langya Holy Land, and in the name of eliminating demons and defending the Tao. What kind of eliminating demons and defending the Tao was this? Hearing this news, divine monk Fa Hai couldn't help but want to laugh. In divine monk Fa Hai's heart, in this world, anyone would fall into the demonic path. Only the holy son of Haotian would not fall into the demonic path. He had seen it with his own eyes. The holy son of Haotian recited the Mahayana Dharma in the debate hall. How could such an existence be a person who had fallen into the demonic path? He remembered it clearly. The Mahayana Dharma recited by the holy son of Haotian. However, he had obtained the approval of the true Buddha and was enveloped by the Buddha's light and endless auspicious aura. He was even blessed by the auspicious beasts and the Buddha's light. Such an existence. If the holy son of Haotian agreed, he could become the Buddha of Buddhism at any time. The holy son of Haotian had fallen into the demonic path? Divine monk Fa Hai only felt that this news was too ridiculous. As everyone knew, the cultivation method of Buddhism was different from the cultivation method of other people on the continent. No. It should be said that the cultivation method of the Elysium continent, the birthplace of Buddhism, was different from the cultivation method of other continents. In terms of cultivation attributes, the power of Buddhism's cultivation, it could be said to be the opposite of the demonic path. It was as if they were born to counter each other. Buddhism and the demonic path had always been incompatible. Since ancient times, except for an anomaly 50,000 years ago, the demonic path and the Buddhist path had always been two different forms. With the holy son of Haotian's unparalleled attainments in Buddhism, how could he fall into the demonic path? Xuanzang, what's going on? Divine monk Fa Hai's dharma was profound. He quickly calmed down and asked divine monk Xuanzang. Since he had already determined that the holy son of Haotian would never fall into the demonic path, then the rumors in the east must be planted by someone. This was something that divine monk Fa Hai could not tolerate. If it was before Jun Haotian recited the Mahayana Buddhist Dharma, divine monk Fa Hai might not interfere in this matter. However, at this moment, Jun Haotian was chanting the Mahayana Dharma. He already had the qualifications to become the Arhat. Divine monk Fa Hai had no choice but to pay attention to such an existence. Xuanzang began to explain after hearing what Fa Hai said. Some time ago, a sect in the mortal world was slaughtered and their flesh and blood were completely devoured. Originally this wasn't a big deal, but as time passed, more and more things like this happened. That was when the holy son of Haotian rose to power. So, there was a rumor that the holy son of Haotian had already practiced the demonic arts and had fallen into the demonic path. The reason why his cultivation rose so quickly was because he devoured the flesh and blood of others. After listening to Xuanzang, divine monk Fa Hai was enlightened. It was obvious that someone was trying to frame the holy son of Haotian. It was likely that those who had their flesh and blood devoured were also arranged by the mastermind behind the scenes. Divine monk Fa Hai was almost certain. The mastermind behind these things must be from the five great forces that were invading the Langya holy ground. In fact, using such a method was very clumsy. But there was no other way. The mastermind behind this matter. It was the alliance of the five top forces on the Wuxian continent. The energy contained in this. It was beyond the imagination of ordinary people. If such a force wanted to join forces and frame a person, could be said that it was easy. Especially for a prodigy like the holy son of Haotian, who had not been famous for long on the continent. As everyone knew, the holy son of Haotian had reached his current level in an extremely short period of time. The #1 person in the eastern wilderness. He was as famous as the Kunlun holy ground. Such an honor was accomplished in a short span of a year. It had to be said that this was indeed surprising. Of course, whether the holy son of Haotian really practiced the demonic arts and fell into the demonic path. The five great forces did not care about this point. What they cared about was how many people would respond to their rumors. No matter what the identity of the holy son of Haotian was. What they needed was just a reason to attack Jun Haotian. Since ancient times, the rules and the right to speak, it had always been in the hands of the strong. The five great forces are suppressing the Langya holy ground. Did they say when? A trace of contemplation flashed through his eyes. After a moment, Divine Monk Fahai asked. After all, the Langya Holy Ground was one of the 7 great holy lands of the human race. If the 5 great holy lands wanted to attack the Langya Holy Ground, they would not be so rash. They would definitely be careful. They spread the news just to stir up the water. To spread the news that the holy son of Haoyin had fallen into the demonic path. To let more people know about this matter. When the holy son of Haoyin became the target of public criticism, the devil of everyone on the continent, that was the time for them to attack. At that time, they would truly stand on the side of righteousness and crusade against the devil, the holy son of Haoyin. Moreover, Divine Monk Fahai could guess. The 5 great holy lands should have a way to deal with the supreme weapon of the Langya Holy Ground. Otherwise they would not provoke the Langya Holy Ground so brazenly. Divine Monk Fahai could almost imagine that the day of the battle would be a peerless battle. A great disaster. It should be in 7 days. Hearing Divine Monk Fahai's words, Divine Monk Xuanzang immediately replied, on that day the 5 great forces declared that if they do not hand over the holy son of Haoyin in 7 days, they would represent the entire eastern wilderness and crusade against the Langya Holy Ground. It was obvious that the main target of the 5 great forces was the holy son of Haoyin. They did this to put pressure on the Langya Holy Ground. After all, from the looks of it, the only one who wanted to protect the holy son of Haoyin was the holy lord of Langya, Tao Xian. As for the other higher-ups of the Holy Ground, no one knew what they were thinking. The 5 great forces were using endless pressure to make the higher-ups of the Langya Holy Ground take the initiative to call the holy son of Haoyin out. Although Divine Monk Fahai was not involved in worldly affairs, he was wise enough to see everything clearly. At this moment, Divine Monk Fahai was a little worried about the holy son of Haoyin. Would the entire Langya Holy Ground really protect the holy son of Haoyin at all costs? In this situation even Divine Monk Fahai was not sure. Master, is the holy son of Haoyin still inside? Divine Monk Xuanzang looked at the main hall where Jun Haoyin was and asked slowly. That day, Jun Moyo left something for Jun Haoyin. Some of the higher-ups of the small Thunder Temple knew about this. But what exactly did he leave behind? No one knew what was going on. After all, the strength that Jun Moyo displayed that day was too terrifying. No one in the small Thunder Temple dared to provoke him. Yes, the holy son of Haoyin is still in seclusion. Hearing this, Divine Monk Fahai frowned and put his palms together. In Divine Monk Fahai's heart, he actually did not want Jun Haoyin to get involved in this mess. He was even looking forward to Jun Haoyin's seclusion this time. It would be best if it lasted for a few years. When he came out, everything would be calm. But Divine Monk Fahai was a monk. Naturally, he knew that nothing could be forced. If Jun Haoyin could come out before the 5 great forces suppressed the Langya Holy Ground, this was also his fate. Keep a close eye on it. When the holy son of Haoyin comes out, inform me immediately. Divine Monk Fahai said to Xuanzang and then slowly left. No matter what. These things were all about the eastern wilderness. It had nothing to do with the western desert. He could not interfere too much. Xuanzang put his palms together and bowed slightly. Yes, master. At this moment, in a main hall of the small Thunder Temple, Jun Haoyin closed his eyes tightly. In his body, the Abhijna of the 100 scriptures of nurturing was circulating crazily. It seemed to be able to smelt all Abhijnas. Even in Jun Haoyin's mind, the supreme scripture of the 3,000 snow lotuses pattern could not escape. At this moment, the 5th snowflake pattern in Jun Haoyin's body had finally been successfully smelted. At the same time, Jun Haoyin's primordial spirit had been sitting cross-legged under the 7 treasures Bodhi tree. At this moment he also opened his eyes. All kinds of abstruse and mysterious auras were emitted from Jun Haoyin's body. In addition to the aura contained in the Abhijnas from before, there was also a cold aura that was like an ice hell. He slowly stood up. His body was surrounded by golden light. His primordial spirit body, which was originally 1.9 inches long, instantly grew to 2 inches. Boom. Finally, the surging aura in Jun Haoyin's body shook. The pores all over his body swallowed and spat out a huge amount of essence. The giant elephant cells in his body were all at this moment. They burst out with a resplendent light. It intertwined with the golden qi and blood. The scene of the giant elephant carrying the sun and stepping on the eternal hell formed a terrifying phenomenon. It was also at this moment that the 840,000 giant elephant seeds suddenly awakened. Jun Haoyin's strength had completely broken through to the 2nd level of the Dharma characteristic realm. Chapter 2, Leaving Seclusion, Reaching the Dharma characteristic realm. When a warrior reached the Dharma characteristic realm, Every time his cultivation increased by 1 level, his primordial spirit would grow by 1 inch. When the primordial spirit reached 10 inches, it meant that the warrior had reached the perfected Dharma characteristic realm. Once the primordial spirit reached this level, it would completely merge with the physical body. At this moment, the warrior would undergo a metamorphosis. Under the effect of the primordial spirit, the warrior's physical body would retreat from the mortal body. It would exist in another form of life. And this form of life was called the 5 immortal realms. As long as one was in the immortal realm, their lifespan would be 10,000 years. They were also known as the true giants of history. Of course, the current Jun Haoyan was still a little far from that realm. But with his current cultivation speed, it would not be long before he reached that realm. As Jun Haoyan's cultivation broke through, the giant elephant seeds in his body began to continue to awaken. The endless cells in his body began to vibrate violently. In just a few breaths, the giant elephant seeds in Jun Haoyan's body reached 990,000. This had already reached Jun Haoyan's peak state in the 2nd level of the Dharma characteristic realm. With the awakening of a large number of giant elephant seeds, Jun Haoyan's vital essence and physical body naturally received great benefits. In addition, Jun Haoyan's primordial spirit also grew. It had already reached 2 inches and 9/10. This was already the strongest state that a 2nd-level Dharma characteristic realm primordial spirit could reach. Judging from the current situation, from now on, every time Jun Haoyan had a breakthrough, he would directly reach the peak state. This situation was definitely beyond everyone's expectations. Moreover, there was also the greatest benefit. That was the awakening power of the giant elephant seeds in Jun Haoyan's body had all merged into his physical body. It had all been absorbed by his physical body. After obtaining such terrifying energy, even Jun Haoyan's saint body had received great benefits. At this moment, the golden blood qi in Jun Haoyan's body had already begun to change. It was a color that was intertwined with red and gold. It was like a crystal. It exuded a powerful and terrifying aura. This aura was like that of a god, filled with dignity. At this moment, Jun Haoyan also understood in his heart. As long as he transformed all the blood in his body into a red crystal state, that would be the time when he successfully advanced to a divine body. Divine body. This was the strongest physique that had appeared so far in the martial god continent. With a divine body, one would definitely be able to become a supreme existence in the Emperor realm. Moreover, once it transformed into a divine body, it would unlock the treasures of the physical body. That was a true level of cultivation of the physical body to the extreme. At that time, his internal organs would also undergo a metamorphosis. It would have a terrifying power comparable to an artifact. Of course, it was also extremely difficult to transform into a divine body. For the current Jun Haoyan, according to his current speed of evolution, it would take at least 10 years. Of course, Jun Haoyan could still wait for this amount of time. Now, his sacred body's physical body was enough for him to use. With the many supreme emperor techniques and supreme artifacts in his hands, and other terrifying trump cards, he could definitely protect himself. At this moment, Jun Haoyan felt the power in his body, and a satisfied smile appeared on his face. However, this power was not very stable at the moment. It still needed to be continuously transformed and condensed. Otherwise it would be like a loft in the sky. Although it looked good, it could easily collapse. Thinking of this, Jun Haoyan began to calm his mind and temper the power in his body with all his strength. At the same time, in his mind, the comprehension of the battle secret was still ongoing. This time he must comprehend the battle character secret art to the limit. This was known as the strongest offensive technique, and he was very tempted. Soon time passed quickly and 5 days passed in a flash. And in these 5 days, Jun Haoyan naturally had a great harvest. Not only did he consolidate his physical body, vital essence, and primordial spirit, he had also completely mastered the things he had obtained from signing in this time. Especially the no beginning bell in Jun Haoyan's hand. According to his senses, the no beginning bell had been awakened by him to a certain extent. He could already summon the will of the no beginning bell's owner. That was the will of that peerless celestial emperor. That will. Not only could it unleash a powerful combat strength, it could also replace Jun Haoyan to directly control the supreme artifact. It could erupt with the true power of a supreme artifact. Of course, the current Jun Haoyan was still unable to reach that level. If he wanted to reach that level, he would need unimaginable energy. Even if he exhausted all the treasures on Jun Haoyan's body, he wouldn't be able to do it. Then Jun Haoyan threw away the distracting thoughts in his mind and stopped thinking about this matter. He slowly stood up and looked around the main hall. At this moment there was no longer Jun Moyo's aura in the main hall. After Jun Haoyin received the inheritance left behind by Jun Moyo, that aura completely disappeared. Even the incarnation had disappeared along with it. As for Jun Moyo's main body, it was as she said. At this moment he was no longer in the martial god continent. Jun Haoyin firmly believed that one day he would see Jun Moyo again. Thinking of this, Jun Haoyin didn't hesitate and directly opened the door of the main hall. Creak. The ancient door opened wide and made a heavy sound. Divine Monk Xuanzang? You've been waiting for me? When he opened the door, Jun Haoyin suddenly realized. Xuanzang had been standing at the door. He seemed to have waited for a long time. When the latter saw his figure, there was a trace of surprise in his eyes. Because the current Jun Haoyin, he was even stronger than he had seen a few days ago. His strength was also more restrained. However, he thought of Divine Monk Fa Hai's words and immediately said, Holy Son of Haoyin, Master invites you over. I have something important to say. Something important? Hearing this, Jun Haoyin narrowed his eyes slightly. He immediately nodded. At least since he entered the small thunder temple. Divine Monk Fa Hai didn't lie to him. Then the two of them left together. They headed to where Divine Monk Fa Hai was. The 5 major forces have joined forces? Claim that I have fallen into the demonic path and suppressed the Langya sacred ground in 2 days. At this moment in a hall of the small thunder temple, Jun Haoyin looked at Divine Monk Fa Hai in front of him and slowly spoke. His tone was cold and his white robe kept fluttering, although there was a sense of transcendence. But there was also the aura of a domineering emperor, especially after hearing the news from Divine Monk Fa Hai. This terrifying aura was even stronger. Indeed. Xuanzang also spoke, his eyes slightly lowered. At that moment, Jun Haoyin narrowed his eyes. He knew that the 5 major forces would definitely make a move on him. But he never thought that it would be in this way. They were forcing him. Forcing the Langya sacred ground. The older generation made a move, which was against the tacit rules of the martial god continent. So they came up with the excuse of eliminating demons and defending the Tao. Could they make a move just like that? What a joke. Of course. This excuse of the 5 major forces. Anyone from the major forces could see it. But in fact, sometimes this was what was needed. Just like how 2 countries wanted to go to war but couldn't find the reason. Then they would create the reason themselves. Framing and framing. This war would naturally start. It wasn't very smart. But it was extremely practical. Jun Haoyin smiled. He knew that the demon race wouldn't have such thoughts. It must be the idea of the 3 sacred grounds. Benefactor, actually, you can choose not to return to the Langya sacred ground. At this moment, Divine Monk Fa Hai spoke. His face was full of mercy, very sincere and certain. If you stay and be the Arhat of the small thunder temple, even the 5 major forces can't do anything to you. This sentence contained a huge amount of confidence. Although the 3 major temples of the Western Desert couldn't be said to face it together. But the Arhat was a Buddhist. The Vajra temple and the Shenkong temple wouldn't sit idly by. If they joined forces, protecting Jun Haoyin wouldn't be a problem at all. Chapter 195. No matter what force it was, if they wanted to start a war with Buddhism, all of them had to weigh their own strength. In the Trichiliacosm, Buddhism was one of the most powerful sections. Almost every world, there were monks in all of them. These Buddhist disciples were scattered all over the continents. If they were called upon, they would all unite. The entire Trichiliacosm would cause a huge earthquake. This was not just the foundation of a large force. Buddhism. Since ancient times, it had always belonged to the great sects. Over countless years, the power accumulated was enough to shock the world. Moreover, Buddhism was different from other sects such as Taoism and Confucianism. The Buddhist disciples had unimaginable cohesion. The forces of Buddhism had never been divided. Thousands of Buddhist disciples all belonged to Buddhism. With just a call, the Buddhist disciples could unite. Such a terrifying cohesion. There was no one who was not afraid. Therefore, Fahai dared to guarantee that he would protect Jun Haoyin from the 5 major forces. This was not because he was arrogant, but because he had the strength. It was just that Fahai God Source had good intentions. Jun Haoyin could only let him down. Hearing Fahai God Source's words, Jun Haoyin's face was not moved at all. He said with a smile, "Thank you for your good intentions, divine monk. However, as a disciple of Langya, now that Langya is in trouble, how can I escape? Although I'm not a man, the Holy Land has taken me well. The Holy Land is in trouble because of me. I have to go back." Jun Haoyin's tone was sonorous and firm. He knew in his heart. This time the 5 major forces were threatening the Langya Holy Land. They were probably here for him. But so what? In the face of enemies he had never retreated. At this moment, Jun Haoyin truly displayed the demeanor of a peerless genius. This boldness and determination. Immediately, it made Fahai Divine Monk and Xian Pin Divine Monk look sideways. They looked at Jun Haoyin in front of them. They no longer looked at him as a young genius. At this moment, Jun Haoyin had already begun to have the aura of an overlord of a generation. This attitude. This unparalleled boldness. At this moment, the 2 divine monks, Fa Hai and Fa Hai, who were standing in front of Jun Haoyin, could clearly feel it. Since the Holy Son of Haoyin has made up his mind, there is no need for me to say anything more. Seeing Jun Haoyin's insistence, Divine Monk Fa Hai could only reveal a trace of helplessness and put his palms together. In front of Jun Haoyin, Fahai's attitude was humble. But it also showed the awareness of a Buddhist monk of a generation. After that, Divine Monk Fa Hai opened his mouth again and said, "Before the Holy Sun leaves, I would like to give you something." As he spoke, Fahai's expression was incomparably solemn. "What is it?" Hearing this, Jun Haoyin raised his eyebrows, revealing a trace of curiosity. Under Jun Haoyin's curious gaze, the Supreme Monk Fa Hai slowly raised his right hand. In the next moment, a strong Buddhist light emerged from Monk Fahai's palm. At the same time, golden lotuses bloomed one after another, and the chanting of ancient Buddhist scriptures resounded in the air. Then the entire hall was enveloped by the Buddhist light. That huge amount of energy trembled along with it. Jun Haoyin opened his eyes slightly and saw a sarira appear in Divine Monk Fa Hai's palm. This sarira was like a transparent amber, engraved with Buddhist lotuses and auspicious clouds. Among them there were 18 Buddhist bantis. The Buddhist charm that was revealed was extremely terrifying. Seeing this sarira, Divine Monk Xuanzang's expression changed. He did not expect his master to give this sarira to the Holy Son of Haoyin. This sarira is called the Great Salvation Infinite Sarira of the 18 Bantis. It is one of the most precious treasures of the Lesser Thunderclap Temple. It is supported by the mind power of the 18 previous Nalanda Temple abbots before they passed away. It contains a huge amount of energy. Once used, you can directly obtain the power of a major realm. However, this can only last for 18 incense sticks time. Divine Monk Fa Hai said slowly, then handed the sarira to Jun Haoyin. At this moment, Jun Haoyin was shocked. The Lesser Thunderclap Temple gave such a precious treasure to him just like that. Thinking back to when Divine Monk Fa Hai invited him to be the Arhat of the Lesser Thunderclap Temple, Jun Haoyin suddenly had some thoughts in his mind. However, just as Jun Haoyin was about to speak, Divine Monk Fa Hai interrupted him. Monk Fahai interrupted him directly, "Saint Son of Vast Sky, this is a token of my appreciation. Please accept it. Although you are unwilling to join the Buddhist sect, you are still fated to join us. Take this sarira as a sign of good karma between me and the Holy Sun. In the future, if the Lesser Thunderclap Temple is in trouble, I hope the Holy Sun can lend a helping hand." Divine Monk Fa Hai's words carried a deeper meaning. Hearing Divine Monk Fa Hai's words, Jun Haoyin was stunned, then nodded in understanding. He naturally understood Divine Monk Fa Hai's words. To put it bluntly, Divine Monk Fa Hai was making an investment. He valued his own potential. He believed that if he could survive this calamity he would be able to survive. In the future he would definitely become one of the top experts in the martial god continent. If he formed today's good karma. In the future when Jun Haoyin reached the peak, the Lesser Thunderclap Temple would also be under his glory. Thinking of this, Jun Haoyin couldn't help but think clearly. He happily took the sarira from Divine Monk Fa Hai's hand. In the future there will definitely be rewards. Looking at Divine Monk Fa Hai, Jun Haoyin said in a serious tone. This could be considered a promise to Divine Monk Fa Hai. This time, Jun Haoyin was going to go back and face the oppression of the 5 great forces. Even though his strength had already reached the Transcendence realm. But facing those giants, his strength was still not enough. And now, this sarira could actually help him increase his strength by a realm. With his Transcendence realm strength, he could increase his strength to the Immortal realm. This strength would increase by at least 10 times. Although it was only for 18 incense sticks. But it was enough. During this period of time, it was enough for him to kill everyone. However, according to the Divine Monk's explanation, every time this sarira was used, it needed to be replenished with energy before it could be used again. However, this was also very normal. Otherwise, wouldn't the person who held this Sarira be able to advance by a large realm at any time? Of course, there was a limit to this Sarira's increase in strength. For an immortal realm expert, this Sarira wouldn't work, because the gap between the immortal realm and the emperor realm was too big. It wasn't something that could be reduced by relying on external objects. This old monk is waiting for the holy son of Haoyin to become famous in the eastern wilderness. Looking at Jun Haoyin, a smile appeared on divine monk Fa Hai's face. Then he put his palms together and looked solemn. Beside him, divine monk Xuanzang also put his palms together. Seeing this, Jun Haoyin nodded. Then he bade farewell to the two of them and left the Little Thunder Temple. According to the current time, the 5 great forces would threaten Langya Holy Land. There were less than 2 days left. But at this moment he was still in the western desert. Even if he went all out, it would still take 3 days. If that was the case, then Langya Holy Land would have to hold on for a day. No one would know what would happen on that day. This was the western desert. Buddhists had never studied arrays and the like. Therefore, in the entire western desert there was basically no array. Master, is this the calamity of the holy son of Haoyin this time? After Jun Haoyin left, Xuanzang looked at divine monk Fa Hai beside him with a trace of worry on his face. When Jun Haoyin recited the Mahayana Buddhist Dharma, Xuanzang had already regarded Jun Haoyin as a member of the Buddhist sect. Moreover, Xuanzang admired Jun Haoyin very much. Let nature take its course. Hearing divine monk Xuanzang's words, divine monk Fa Hai's expression didn't change at all. He didn't seem to be worried that Jun Haoyin would be in danger at all. Jun Moyo's background is amazing. I will leave him a trump card. Together with the 18 Venerables' great salvation immeasurable Sarira, it is enough for the holy son of Haoyin to deter the world. Speaking of this, divine monk Fa Hai sighed slightly. In some ancient books of the Buddhist sect, every once in a while the Wuxian continent would suffer a great calamity. Even the western desert was no exception. He was already very old and his flesh and blood had dried up. If the calamity came, he might not be able to protect the small thunder temple. Therefore, divine monk Fa Hai placed his hope in the future. He placed it all on Jun Haoyin. Because he had a premonition. This was the best choice. This was a great calamity. The strange creature from the western desert 50,000 years ago was bound to reappear. He had to be prepared in advance. Thinking of this, divine monk Fa Hai sighed slightly. Then he walked into the main hall with divine monk Xuanzang. At this moment, Jun Haoyin was rushing towards the Langya sacred ground. He unfolded the divine wings of freedom and flew up, breaking through the 9 heavens energy in the void. With a flap of the wings he was thousands of miles away. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation Eastern Wilderness. Langya sacred ground. In the Langya sacred ground. At this moment, Tao Xian was sitting in the main hall. His body was motionless and the aura around him was terrifying. As his eyes opened and closed, golden light could be vaguely seen flowing. At this moment, Tao Xian seemed to be more powerful than before. In front of Tao Xian were the supreme elders of the Langya sacred ground. All of them had their eyes closed and their auras were extremely grand. Today, all the supreme elders of the Langya sacred ground were gathered here. No matter if they were in seclusion. No matter if they were traveling outside. At this moment, they had all returned to the sacred ground and gathered here. There were a total of 9 supreme elders of the Langya sacred ground. Each of them was an ancient powerhouse of the immortal realm. Because of the 5 major forces, the Langya sacred ground was now in the center of a storm. Are you sure that the Holy Sun went to the Western Desert Buddhist sect? At this moment Tao Xian spoke slowly, his voice loud. In front of Tao Xian, Feng Xiaoyao, Dugubo and the others all bowed. At this moment they stood in the main hall with an extremely respectful attitude. That's right. Hearing this, Feng Xiaoyao slowly said, that day before the Holy Sun left the Linglong sacred ground, he said that he would go to the small Layin temple. Moreover, the mark that the Holy Sun left on me did not disappear, which means that the Holy Sun is still safe. Feng Xiaoyao slowly explained what happened that day. Hearing Feng Xiaoyao's words, Tao Xian slowly nodded. At this moment, Tao Xian hoped that Jun Haoyin would not leave the western desert for a while. As long as Jun Haoyin stayed in the western desert, the 5 major forces of the eastern wilderness would not be a threat to him. Jun Haoyin stayed in the western desert. I hope that the Holy Sun did not receive the news that the Langya sacred ground is about to be besieged. At this moment one of the supreme elders spoke. This person was Jun Moyo's master. He naturally admired Jun Haoyan very much. His thoughts were the same as Tao Xian's. He did not want to rush back to the Langya sacred ground while Jun Haoyan was here. Elders, this time, the 5 major forces have joined forces to attack the Langya sacred ground. What do you think? Looking at the supreme elders in the main hall, Tao Xian slowly asked. What do I think? Aha, how dare they bully the Langya sacred ground? I will not tolerate it. At this moment, one of the supreme elders spoke directly. His tone was full of anger. That's right, the Langya sacred ground has been passed down for hundreds of thousands of years. So what if the 5 major forces have joined forces? Another elder chimed in. His aura was extremely terrifying. He was almost on par with Tao Xian. In the entire Langya sacred ground, apart from Tao Xian, this supreme elder was the strongest. In the face of the attack from the 5 major forces, this supreme elder was still full of confidence. The 5 major forces spread rumors that the holy son of Hao Tian had fallen into the path of demons and attacked the Langya sacred ground in the name of eliminating demons. This is absolutely intolerable. Only a bunch of clowns can come up with such a ridiculous reason. But that kid Hao Tian is really something. Killing the holy son of the 3 major sacred grounds is not enough. Even killed Prince Jiao and Prince Fox. Then the remaining supreme elders also spoke. They were extremely disdainful of the despicable actions of the 5 major forces. At the same time, they were also amazed by the rapid improvement of Jun Haoyan's strength. In their eyes, this generation's holy son of Hao Tian. He was comparable to the holy son of Langya, Bai Ming Han of 30,000 years ago. The holy son of Langya, Bai Ming Han. He was the eternal pride of the Langya sacred ground. Perhaps in the eyes of some supreme elders, the current Jun Haoyan had completely surpassed Bai Ming Han of the past. At this moment, although Jun Haoyan was not the true #1 prodigy of the eastern wilderness, however he had killed Prince Jiao. It was enough to shock the entire continent. If not for the fact that this generation's holy son of Kunlun was too monstrous. Jun Haoyan had never fought with the holy son of Kunlun before. The title of the #1 prodigy of the eastern wilderness. It had already fallen on top of Jun Haoyan's head. Everyone, it's better to be careful. This time the 5 major forces have obviously come prepared. They must have made sufficient preparations. That's right. The 3 sacred grounds also have supreme weapons. Moreover, it said that Demon King Jiao is a world king. That's right. In this battle we must not let our guard down. We must go all out. Following that, another supreme elder spoke up with a pensive look on his face. They were not afraid of the alliance of the 5 major forces. However, no matter what, the 5 major forces had joined forces. This force could not be underestimated. That's right. Just as the supreme elders were discussing, Tao Xian suddenly spoke. At this moment, Tao Xian slowly rose to his feet. A sharp and terrifying aura suddenly swept through the hall. Feeling this aura, everyone shut their mouths. How was the seclusion? The battle this time. Everything was decided by the Holy Lord of Langya, Tao Xian himself. The 5 major forces have obviously come prepared this time. We must be prepared. In the face of the 5 major forces' coercion, my attitude is to fight to the end. I don't care what kind of trouble the holy son of Haoyan has caused outside. Ever since he became the holy son of the Langya sacred ground, he will forever be the holy son of the Langya sacred ground. Now, our holy son has been slandered by a group of villains. We cannot tolerate this. I must seek justice for the holy son of Haoyan and clear his name. Standing in the hall, Tao Xian spoke with a solemn tone. His voice was very loud and clear, echoing throughout the entire Langya sacred ground. As the supreme leader of the Langya sacred ground, he was the strongest person. His words naturally solidified the thoughts in everyone's hearts. These people naturally included all of the grand elders. At this moment, everyone had decided to wage a decisive battle against the 5 major forces. They swore to defend the dignity of the holy son of Haoyan to their deaths. This subordinate has something to report to the Holy Lord. Right at this moment, the hall masters of Migres Hall, Kayang Hall, Aliath Hall, and the others appeared outside the Langya sacred ground. They transformed into dazzling streaks of light that appeared within the hall. Holy Son, we've just received news that the 5 major forces have begun to move. They're only 15,000 kilometers away from the Holy Sun. As soon as this news spread, all the supreme elders opened their eyes. For a time, a vast wave of pressure instantly suffused the entire sacred ground. Feng Xiaoyao and the others instantly turned ghastly pale when they sensed this aura. At this moment, their strength had already reached the Emperor realm. But at this moment they were facing 9 supreme experts at the immortal realm. If they were to release such a terrifying aura, it would be enough to easily crush a 5,000 kilometers city. If they weren't disciples of the Langya sacred ground, they would have been crushed into pieces by now. When he heard this, Tao Xian secretly narrowed his eyes and released the energy of his soul. 15,000 kilometers away. It was only an instant for the members of the 5 major forces. But he knew. It was impossible for the 5 major forces to appear directly. There were still 2 hours before the deadline. They wouldn't be in a hurry. But no matter what, the final battle would still begin. Since that's the case, let's fight. After that, Tao Xian spoke and took the lead to walk out of the hall. The 9 supreme elders. The 7 hall masters. They walked out in unison. They stood behind Tao Xian. There was no fear. In the next moment, everyone arrived at the training grounds at the center of the Langya sacred ground. Here, hundreds of thousands of disciples of the Langya sacred ground were gathered here. Labor disciples, outer disciples, inner disciples, core disciples, and elite disciples. They were all here. As one of the 7 major sacred grounds of the human race. There were hundreds of thousands of disciples in the sacred ground. This was a foundation and a terrifying inheritance. At this moment, Tao Xian stood in the air and looked down at all the disciples below. The 5 major forces are madly smearing the name of the Holy Son of Great Heaven and framing me for falling into the demonic path. Now they're even working together to suppress the Langya sacred ground in 2 hours. Those who don't want to fight, step out. In the name of the sacred Lord, I hereby decree that we will not pursue this matter. At this moment, Tao Xian's voice spread throughout the Langya sacred ground. It also rang in the ears of all the disciples. This decision was made by Tao Xian and a group of supreme elders. In his eyes there was no need to drag everyone down. But at this moment, the central square began to fall silent. Countless disciples' gazes were filled with determination. Only his body would not move for 10,000 years. Chapter 196. At this moment, in the central square of the Langya sacred ground, hundreds of thousands of disciples of the Langya sacred ground stood there. When Tao Xian's words resounded in the void, no one moved their bodies. One by one, their bodies were straight and fixed on the spot like a mountain. Their eyes, they were extremely determined. Seeing this scene, even Tao Xian, who had always been calm, he could not help but feel a ripple in his heart. The performance of these disciples. He was really a little surprised. But in the next moment, something that shocked him even more happened. Bang! At this moment, all the disciples of the Langya sacred ground, at the same time, they all knelt on the ground. Even the true disciples did the same. At this moment, they looked as if they were facing death with equanimity. They faced the Holy Lord of Langya and the Grand Elders. They shouted loudly, "We swear to defend the dignity of the sacred ground and the reputation of the Holy Son. We swear to defend the dignity of the sacred ground and the reputation of the Holy Son. We swear to defend the dignity of the sacred ground and the reputation of the Holy Son." At this moment, a vast and boundless voice resounded in the Langya sacred ground. It was like the beating of a war drum. It was like an oath. Everyone was roaring hysterically with all their might. Their voices completely resounded in this world. Even the clouds above the void were shaken. Facing this scene, Tao Xian and the Grand Elders, who had always been calm, their expressions could not help but change slightly. They did not expect the hundreds of thousands of disciples of the Langya sacred ground. They could actually be so united. They did not hesitate to use their lives to defend the Langya sacred ground. They defended the dignity of the Holy Son of Haotian. Such terrifying cohesion. Even though the Langya sacred ground had been passed down for hundreds of thousands of years, it was also very rare. However, this was also reflected from the side. The Holy Son of Haotian had received the recognition of hundreds of thousands of Langya sacred ground. He had won the hearts of everyone. Following the hearts of the people was invincible. This also proved that Tao Xian had ignored everyone's objections back then. The decision to forcibly appoint Jun Haotian as the Holy Son of Haotian, extremely wise, as the current Holy Lord of Langya. Seeing that the Langya disciples were so united, Tao Xian couldn't help but be overjoyed. He couldn't help but shout, "Good?" At this moment, Dao Yan's mind that had always been like an ancient well without ripples was really shaken. Back then, Tao Xian went from being a disciple of Langya to being the Holy Lord of Langya. During this period he had also experienced many hardships. These tribulations, it caused him to seal his mind and soul. He was indifferent to everything in the outside world. But for some reason, seeing the scene in front of me, Tao Xian actually felt his blood boil. As the Holy Lord of Langya, what was Tao Xian's lifelong pursuit? To lead the Langya sacred ground to greatness. To leave an immortal legacy for the Langya sacred ground. But all of this required an extremely important factor. That was cohesion. Now, the hundreds of thousands of disciples of the Langya sacred ground were united. Such a grand occasion. Other than the Langya sacred ground, who else could it be? The Langya sacred ground had reached such a level. As the sacred lord, he naturally shared the glory. At this moment, Tao Xian changed from his usual indifference. He looked at all the disciples of the Langya sacred ground. In the next moment he shouted loudly, "Today let us fight to the end." Tao Xian used his vital essence. His voice was extremely loud and clear. It was as if a single spark had started a prairie fire, burning fiercely. Fight to the end. Fight to the end. Fight to the end. As Tao Xian spoke, countless disciples of the Langya also shouted loudly. It was like a tsunami. Among the crowd, Feng Xiaoyao and the rest of Jun Haoyan's trusted subordinates. At this moment they had a determined look on their faces. At this moment they were already determined to fight to the death. Even if they died they would have no regrets. It seemed that the atmosphere had reached a climax. Tao Xian directly gave the order. Activate the defensive array. At this moment, Tao Xian's face was full of fighting spirit. I want to see how these 5 forces will destroy the Langya sacred ground. Then Tao Xian gave the order. The entire Langya sacred ground began to operate rapidly. Tao Xian's mysterious array seal emerged in the void. It united all the main peaks. The curtains of the great battle were about to begin. This battle. It was definitely going to be a bloodbath, and it was hard to tell if they would survive. This point, all the disciples of the Langya sacred ground knew in their hearts. They were also prepared to sacrifice themselves for the sacred ground. Just like that, time passed quietly. Finally, the great battle was finally coming. At this moment, Tao Xian stood above the void. He looked into the distance with a calm gaze. Behind him, the 9 grand elders stood there. "They're here." Suddenly, one of the grand elders said. Afterward, everyone's gaze turned to the east. They saw that the void there was already covered by endless dark clouds at this moment. There was thunder and lightning interweaving. There was a sudden flash of divine light. There was a monstrous aura soaring to the sky. The aura there was incomparably huge, completely shaking the entire world. The vast and boundless aura directly shrouded the area within a radius of tens of thousands of miles. Rumble. Soon the area shrouded by dark clouds quickly moved towards the Langya sacred ground. When they arrived at the Langya sacred ground, an incomparably loud roar sounded. Afterward, terrifying figures walked out of the dark clouds one after another. There were 5 figures in the lead. At this moment they did not hide their figures. Everyone recognized them. They were the Alcade Sacred Lord, the Azure Cloud Sacred Lord, the All-Heaven Sacred Lord, and the Fairy Fox King. As for the strongest demon King Jiao, he stood in the center. Behind them, battle flags fluttered in the wind and drums shook the sky. Right at this moment, there were also countless powerful auras hidden in the surroundings of the tourist sacred ground. These auras, naturally, they were the powerhouses from the various major forces of the Wuxian continent. At this moment, the 5 major forces joined forces to suppress the Langya sacred ground. Such a grand event naturally attracted the attention of countless powerhouses. Even the central region sent many powerhouses to watch the battle. At this moment, the top forces of the Wuxian continent were secretly observing. The curtains of a world-shaking battle had finally been drawn. The hundreds of thousands of disciples of the Langya sacred ground and the 5 major forces allied forces. They faced each other from afar. It seems that today, the Langya sacred ground is prepared to risk their lives to protect the holy son of Haotian who has fallen into the demon path. A moment later, Alcade's sacred master took the lead and stood out. He stood on the side of righteousness. He claimed that he was here for the holy son of Haotian who had fallen into the demon path. Humph, this is simply nonsense. You said that he has fallen into the demon path, so he has fallen into the demon path. Where is the evidence? That's right. How dare you spout nonsense without any evidence? Alcade's sacred master, as a sacred master, you are really not worthy of being a sacred master of the human race. After Alcade's sacred master spoke, Tao Xian had yet to speak. The few grand elders behind him could not help but speak up. At this moment, they did not care about Alcade's sacred master's status. They berated him loudly. At this moment, the battle was about to begin. They did not need to be polite with the other party. Humph, the holy son of Haoyin has fallen into the demon path. This is already known to the world. As the sacred masters, would we fabricate the truth? That's right. The insignificant holy son of Haoyin is not worthy of us mobilizing so many people. We are here to eliminate the demon. The holy son of Haoyin has fallen into the demon path. It is the responsibility of everyone in the Wuxian continent to eliminate the demon path. All Heaven's sacred master, Qingyun's sacred master, and Master Fairy Fox continued to speak. They were mocking the grand elders of the Langya sacred ground. They no longer cared. They were still harping on the fact that Jun Haoyin had fallen into the demon path. Of course, the experts who were watching the battle. His heart was clear about the whole story. The five forces had fabricated the story that the holy son of Haoyin had fallen into the demon path. However, this was how the world worked. Whoever was more powerful. Whoever had the right to explain. Nonsense. This is all wishful thinking on your part. At this moment, Tao Xian said slowly, the Langya sacred ground will decide whether the holy son of Haoyin has fallen into the demon path or not. You don't have to interfere. Similar to the few supreme elders, Dao Yan's words were similarly not courteous in the slightest. His words immediately caused the people from the five major forces to narrow their eyes. Tao Xian's attitude was the attitude of the Langya sacred ground. Alcade's sacred master did not expect this. He did not expect that the Langya sacred ground would defend the holy son of Haoyin. It is not up to you to decide whether it is wishful thinking. Hand over the holy son of Haoyin. Let us test if he has demonic nature in front of everyone. Demon King Jiao asked the Langya sacred ground to hand over Jun Haoyin. What a joke. Since when did you demons have the right to point fingers at the holy son of the Langya sacred ground? Tao Xian's eyes shone brightly. There was even a surge of killing intent. So, you don't plan to hand over the holy son of Haoyin? Demon King Jiao was furious. Four dragon heads suddenly appeared behind him, and countless scales appeared on his body. Every scale shone with a golden luster. It looked extremely terrifying. How is it? Tao Xian took a step forward. The aura of the fifth stage of the immortal realm erupted. For a moment, the world shook violently. The mountains and rivers were shaking. Since that's the case, don't blame us. Demon King Jiao and the others walked out. Their auras were enough to detonate the heavens. They walked forward in unison and spoke directly. The human race's Langya sacred ground harbored the holy son of Haoyin who had fallen into the demonic path. He has also fallen into the demonic path. From today onwards, the Langya sacred ground will be removed from the human race's sacred ground. A loud voice sounded. The entire world shook. Endless winds and clouds surged. For a moment, killing intent swept across. A world-shaking battle between the Eastern Wilderness sacred ground. It was on the verge of breaking out. Chapter 2, Immortal Artifact Suppression. A vast pressure swept out in the void, with Demon King Jiao leading the way. Everyone from the five major factions moved out at this moment. Streaks of terrifying auras emerged in the void. One by one they stood in the void. It displayed its supreme power. There were hundreds of Transcendence Realm experts. The aura on each of their bodies was extremely terrifying. In the next moment, everyone summoned their heaven and earth Dharma forms. Heaven and earth Dharma forms that were tens of thousands of feet tall stood between heaven and earth. They were like giant pillars that supported the sky. They surrounded the entire Langya sacred ground. Then, another 70 to 80 terrifying figures appeared. These people. They were even more terrifying than Transcendence Realm experts. Each of them was in existence at the fifth level of the immortal realm. Although they did not reveal their Dharma forms, they only revealed the true essence in their bodies. It was like a vast ocean resounding throughout the surrounding 10,000 miles. 70 to 80 experts at the fifth level of the immortal realm. Although they were all at the immortal longevity realm and the immortal undying realm. But the power of these people combined. It was enough to shake heaven and earth. As for Demon King Jiao, Demon King Fairy Fox, and the others, these were almost all existences at the immortal creation realm or above. They stood in the void, looking down on the entire Langya sacred ground. A moment later, Demon King Jiao, who stood in the void, slowly spoke. His killing intent was sharp. Kill? As soon as Demon King Jiao finished speaking, an extremely terrifying killing intent instantly swept between heaven and earth. Even the clouds in the ninth heaven were scattered by this force. Then, the experts of the five major factions directly attacked. All kinds of treasures were taken out one after another. In the void, true essence was vast and mighty. At this moment, heaven and earth seemed to be about to shatter. A series of shocking rumbles resounded. Outside the Langya sacred ground, hundreds of thousands of miles of mountains and rivers were shaking. Countless living beings prostrated and trembled under this force. At this moment, when the spectating experts saw this, they couldn't help but step back. They were afraid that they would be implicated. Once a battle of such a scale began, it would not care about the lives of others. Once involved, there was a 90% chance of survival. They had only come this time to scout the situation. They did not want to participate in this earth-shattering battle. Sacred leader, are we really not participating in this battle? At this moment, thousands of miles away from the battle, the Jade Lake's sacred leader, Guyue Huang, looked at the distant battlefield. She could not help but reveal a trace of anxiety on her face. This time, the 5 major factions had joined forces to attack the Langya sacred ground. There were hundreds of primordial soul dharma experts and 70 to 80 experts at the 5th level of the immortal realm. There was also a peerless expert like Demon King Jiao, who was already standing at the peak of the Wuxian continent. Even though the Langya sacred ground was a sacred ground of the human race and had a strong foundation, it was afraid that it would not be able to resist. Beside Guyue Huang stood a woman in a palace dress. It was the Jade Lake's sacred leader. The Jade Lake's sacred leader was a middle-aged woman. She was wearing a yellow palace dress and exuded a luxurious aura. From the aura that the Jade Lake sacred leader exuded, she was definitely not weaker than the Alcade sacred leader and the others. Hearing Guyue Huang's words, the Jade Lake sacred leader slowly shook her head. Yue Huang, we cannot participate in this battle. I know that you have a good relationship with the Holy Son of Hao Tian, but once we participate in a battle of such a scale, we cannot back out. The Jade Lake's sacred leader looked at the battle in the distance and considered her gains and losses. Moreover, each of the 5 major factions is not weaker than the Jade Lake sacred ground. If we participate in this battle rashly, the Jade Lake sacred ground will definitely suffer heavy losses. The Jade Lake sacred leader naturally had her own difficulties in dealing with Guyue Huang's request. One had to know that as the Holy Lord of this generation, she did not represent herself. Guyue Huang did not represent herself. Once someone intervened, that would involve the entire Jade Lake sacred ground. As a sacred leader, she had to focus on the bigger picture. She could not attack directly. Otherwise, the entire Jade Lake sacred ground would fall into a quagmire. She also knew. In this battle, the 5 major factions were determined to kill the Holy Son of Hao Tian. Perhaps the Langya sacred ground would not be destroyed. But the Holy Son of Hao Tian must die. Even she could not do anything about it. Hearing this, Guyue Huang started to think. Yes, once she intervened, she would have to fight against the 5 major factions. The Jade Lake sacred ground had tens of thousands of disciples. She did not care. But those people were innocent. So, she could only watch. Thinking of this, Guyue Huang could not help but look at the horizon. She thought to herself, will he appear? Chapter 197. At this moment, Tao Xian saw that the other party had already made a move. There was no hesitation at all. Tao Xian saw that the other party had made a move. There was no hesitation at that moment. He directly struck a handprint into the void. The next moment, the Grand Elders standing behind him all disappeared. Formation rise. All of a sudden Dao Yen let out a harsh cry. As soon as his voice fell, a terrifying pressure suddenly swept through the entire Langya sacred ground. In the Langya sacred ground, 108 true disciples' main peaks slowly rose. A total of 108 beams of divine light shot into the void. Each divine light was thousands of feet wide, forming a light pillar. At this moment, all the light pillars reached the same height. At the same time, in the sky above the Langya sacred ground, a huge light shield appeared. This light shield directly enveloped the entire Langya sacred ground. It protected everyone in the Langya sacred ground. Boom. At this moment, the attacks of the 5 major forces followed. Terrifying vital essence vibrated in the void. The 5 major forces were even more powerful when they joined forces. Even the Langya disciples who were protected by the light shield at this moment. Looking at the terrifying scene outside, their faces were all pale. Such power was really too terrifying. One had to know that this was the power caused by hundreds of Dharma Laksana and dozens of immortal level 5 experts working together. Even a mountain range that spanned tens of thousands of miles would be shattered in front of this attack. However, what made everyone dumbfounded was that when this terrifying attack bombarded the light shield was completely destroyed. The light shield was actually undamaged. There wasn't even any fluctuation. This attack was like a stone sinking into the sea. It only caused a trace of ripples on the light shield. Then it disappeared. Haha, as expected of the Great Sect Protection Formation, its power is extraordinary. Of course, this is the Great Sect Protection Formation that the founder of Langia, the Lord Langia, personally set up back then. How can it be broken so easily? That's right, this formation can't be broken unless the Supreme is alive. Seeing this scene, countless Langia disciples immediately cheered. Originally, they were already prepared to die, but at this moment, seeing how powerful the Great Sect Protection Formation was, they couldn't help but be overjoyed. After all, if one could live, no one would want to die. Just as the Langia disciples had said, the Lord of Langia had personally set up the protective array of the Langia sacred ground. Although the Lord Langia wasn't a master of array formations, he was still able to do so. However, he was still a supreme martial artist. His strength and foundation were all there. A grand formation laid down by a supreme martial artist. Who in the world could break it? However, the Langia disciples did not notice. At this moment, the Holy Lord of Langia's brows were tightly furrowed, and his expression was very unpleasant. Although the Langia's guardian formation was terrifyingly powerful, it was still not enough. For the time being, it could protect them from any harm. But don't forget, the 5 allied forces before him were all top forces of the martial god continent. No force was weaker than the Langia sacred ground. Although the Langia sacred ground was a sacred ground of the human race, it had an extremely deep foundation. However, the foundations of these 5 forces were equally deep. Moreover, this protective array was set up by the Lord of Langia. However, the ones maintaining the protective array were the supreme elders of the Langia sacred ground. They couldn't unleash the full power of this protective array. This point. Naturally, the 5 forces were also very clear about it. Tao Xian knew very well in his heart. This protective array. It was just the beginning. As expected. In the next moment, streaks of terrifying power spread out in the void. Boom. A series of ear-piercing roars suddenly sounded in the entire void. At this moment, the expressions of all the experts who were watching the battle changed drastically. Outside the Langia sacred ground, the 5 forces had dozens of immortal secret realm experts. They were holding immortal spiritual artifacts, ancient immortal artifacts, and even immortal king artifacts as they walked out. A vast immortal aura descended from the sky above the Langia sacred ground. It bloomed with shocking brilliance, shining between heaven and earth. It formed a terrifying scene. A total of 12 immortal artifacts bloomed with supreme power as if they were going to isolate heaven and earth. They displayed a terrifying aura that could suppress the world. Boom. At this moment, heaven and earth trembled. The stars were bright and dark. It was like the omen of an eternal calamity. Between heaven and earth, the wind and clouds were turbulent. Waves of terrifying immortal aura suddenly descended from various immortal artifacts. What was an immortal artifact? It was a rare treasure that could only be refined by peerless experts above the Emperor realm. Within the immortal artifacts, there was the unique pressure of an Emperor realm expert. This kind of pressure was much stronger than an immortal realm expert. In front of an immortal artifact, an equally precious artifact seemed extremely ordinary. They couldn't be compared at all. Now, the 5 forces had actually taken out a total of 12 immortal artifacts. They even took out the legendary immortal king artifacts. Tao Xian believed that this was not the true strength of the 5 forces. But even what was displayed now could be said to be heaven-defying. The supreme killing power displayed by these 12 immortal artifacts was extremely terrifying. Feeling this pressure, the countless experts who were watching the battle in the surroundings, they subconsciously retreated. The power of 12 immortal artifacts was something that even an immortal realm expert couldn't resist. Not to mention them. Do you think you're the only ones with immortal artifacts? Seeing this scene, Tao Xian's expression became even more unsightly. In the next moment, he slowly took a step forward and waved at Langia Holy Land below. Then, a few resplendent streams of light surged into the light barrier below. These streams of light were naturally the immortal artifacts of Langia Holy Land. After these immortal artifacts were added to the sect protection array, the light barrier on the sect protection array was obviously strengthened by a lot. Immortal artifacts were indeed immortal artifacts. The array set up by a supreme being could also have an amplification effect. Haha, Tao Xian, you're just making a last-ditch effort. Seeing this, Demon King Jiao laughed wildly. In the next moment he directly ordered, "Attack!" Following Demon King Jiao's order, all the immortal realm powerhouses of the five forces erupted with powerful combat strength. Then, without hesitation, they poured the vast true essence in their bodies into the immortal artifacts in their hands. Buzz! In an instant, the power of the immortal artifacts swept through the void, and a series of rumbling sounds rang out. It was as if even the stars in the sky were affected. Attack! In the next moment, the powerhouses of the five forces took out their immortal artifacts and launched a peerless attack. Rumble! In the space, thunder rumbled and lightning flashed. Waves of terrifying light flashed, causing one's heart to tremble. Waves of aftershocks spread out, and the tens of thousands of feet tall mountains around Langya Holy Land were directly shattered. There were also all kinds of living beings who were directly killed before they could react. And these were only caused by the aftershocks of the great battle. Then, countless terrifying attacks that carried the power of the immortal artifacts directly blasted on the light barrier. Boom! In the next moment, a thunderous explosion rang out in Langya Holy Land. At this moment, the entire Langya Holy Land seemed to be trembling. The light barrier above Langya Holy Land began to flicker. It was no longer as calm as before. This extremely terrifying attack directly set off monstrous waves on the light barrier. Countless rays of Tao Xian's mysterious light intertwined in the void. It was even more dazzling than the sun in the void. Seeing this scene, the faces of the Langya disciples below turned pale. Although the Great Array was not broken at this moment, and they were still under the protection of the Great Array. However, they could clearly feel the supreme pressure that was emanating from it. In the face of that pressure, they felt as if they were facing the supreme immortal king. They could be annihilated by the supreme power at any time. Although the Great Array could defend against attacks, it could not resist the pressure. After a while, the void began to gradually stabilize. The defensive Great Array of Langya Holy Land was not damaged at all. Just like before, it was still protecting the Langya disciples inside. This Great Array was indeed set up by the Lord of Langya. A supreme being's work must be of high quality. Such a vast attack, no matter which immortal realm powerhouse faced it. That would be the tragic fate of being annihilated. Upon seeing this scene, the Langya's disciples below cheered once again. So what if it was an immortal artifact? So what if the five forces joined forces? They still could not break the Great Array guarding Langya Holy Land. This was the supreme power of the human Holy Land. However, the group of Langya Holy Land disciples did not notice. At this moment, Tao Xian's expression was even worse than before. Tao Xian slowly looked at the few supreme elders who were maintaining the Great Array in the void. A trace of blood flowed out from the corner of one of the supreme elders' mouth, and his face was extremely pale. It was obvious that the supreme elder had been injured by the terrifying attack just now. Although it was not fatal as time passed, these supreme elders would definitely not be able to hold on. Tao Xian knew that the two attacks just now were just the first few probing attacks. At this moment they were not completely serious yet. How could the alliance of the five top forces only have this kind of means? In the next moment, Tao Xian's guess was confirmed. The strongest commander of the five top forces, Demon King Jiao, slowly walked out. Tao Xian, I'll give you one last chance. At this moment, Demon King Jiao stared at Tao Xian, his golden eyes flickering with endless coldness. Hand over Great Heaven's Holy Sun and let us do whatever we want with him. Or expel Great Heaven's Holy Sun from Langya Holy Land. At this moment, Demon King Jiao and the others did not know that Jun Haoyan was not in Langya Holy Land at all. In their opinion, the important thing was that Great Heaven's Holy Sun was no longer under the protection of Langya Holy Land. Then it would be easy for them to kill Great Heaven's Holy Sun. At this moment, Demon King Jiao gave Langya Holy Land a final warning. After this, the five top forces would no longer be probing. What welcomed the Langya disciples would be a storm-like attack from the five top forces. After this warning, the five top forces would go to war with all their might. Hearing Demon King Jiao's slightly threatening words, Tao Xian's expression did not change at all. He said coldly, Demon King Jiao, if you want to start a war, just come at me. You want me to hand over Great Heaven's Holy Sun? Dream on. Hearing Tao Xian's words, Demon King Jiao's eyes narrowed as he took a deep look at Tao Xian. A moment later, Demon King Jiao suddenly laughed. There was a bone-chilling coldness in his smile. Tao Xian, I gave you a chance. You chose this yourself. Faced with Tao Xian's repeated rejections, Demon King Jiao was enraged. A hint of anger rose in Demon King Jiao's heart, and his killing intent surged. In his opinion, the Langya Holy Land was stubborn. Since Tao Xian was determined to protect Great Heaven's Holy Sun, then he could only get rid of the Holy Lord of Langya and Tao Xian. When the time came, he would make the entire Langya Holy Land pay the price in blood. Thinking of this, Demon King Jiao looked behind him and said slowly, "Everyone, let's do it." Behind Demon King Jiao, the Azure Cloud Sacred Leader, the All-Kate Sacred Leader, and the All-Heaven Sacred Leader stood upright. After hearing Demon King Jiao's words, the three human sacred leaders directly walked out. Suddenly, a monstrous pressure of heaven and earth swept through the entire void. The most eye-catching thing was that there was a huge black cauldron floating behind the All-Kate Sacred Lord. It was at least 50,000 kilograms in weight. The entire cauldron was black, and there were all kinds of mysterious patterns engraved on it. It looked extremely terrifying. Just as All-Kate's sacred leader summoned the black cauldron, an extremely terrifying wave of energy flowed in the void, and the entire world seemed to be imprisoned. The vast power swept across a radius of 1,000,000 miles. All living beings in this area were forced to prostrate themselves before the might of this supreme power. Even the demonic beasts that had just gained intelligence knelt on the ground. It was as if they were begging for forgiveness. At this moment, All-Kate's sacred leader stepped out and held the giant cauldron with both hands. The black cauldron was directly exposed to everyone's eyes. In an instant, all the clouds in the void dispersed. Even the stars in outer space were pushed away by that power and deviated from their original trajectories. The vast power descended. This was a power that belonged to a paragon. In All-Kate's sacred leader's hand. It was the supreme artifact, All-Kate Dragon Pattern Cauldron. It was also known as the All-Kate Cauldron. It was the All-Kate Sacred Ground's first paragon, the All-Kate Sacred Ground's first paragon, and the All-Kate Cauldron that Jun Haoyin had used to hunt down the All-Kate Holy Sun. It was just a replica. So they still used a supreme artifact. The five factions are so arrogant and powerful. They directly used a supreme artifact. This will pose a great threat to the eastern wilderness. No, with the Langya Sacred Ground's protective array, even if they use a supreme artifact, it won't have a direct impact on the eastern wilderness. A powerful figure spoke. He wasn't very worried. After all, the person controlling the supreme artifact was the All-Kate Sacred Leader. He wasn't the All-Kate Sacred Ground. But even so, the people from the major factions all put up a defense. Even a trace of the supreme artifact's power. It could crush countless living beings. At this moment, a smile appeared on the All-Kate Sacred Leader's face. Back then, Tao Xian used a supreme artifact to threaten the All-Kate Sacred Ground. Did you think that there would be a moment like this? As soon as he finished speaking, the All-Kate Sacred Leader didn't hesitate anymore. He took a deep breath and injected his vast true essence into the supreme artifact, All-Kate Cauldron. In the next moment, the sky suddenly changed color, and the sky instantly darkened. An invincible aura enveloped the land. He held the All-Kate Cauldron in his hand. At this moment, the All-Kate Sacred Leader's true essence was at the immortal stage 5. The supreme artifact began to awaken. At this moment, the void rumbled and the world couldn't suppress the aura anymore. At this moment, the disciple who was originally guarding the Langya Sacred Ground also ran over. Endless ripples appeared on the light barrier protecting the Langya Sacred Ground. It was like a bubble that could burst at any time. Chapter 198. The wind and clouds changed color. Under the influence of this unparalleled power, even the stars in the sky seemed to be on the verge of collapsing. A destructive aura enveloped all living beings within a radius of 10,000 miles. Even the many experts who were watching the battle outside could feel the power of the awakened All-Kate Cauldron. Their bodies trembled and they were on the verge of collapsing. They almost fell out of the sky. The supreme power on the All-Kate Cauldron only needed to leak a little bit. It could instantly suppress everyone present. This was the power of a supreme weapon. Domineering. Powerful. It could suppress any existence. In the 3,000 worlds, if a supreme being did not appear, no immortal would descend. No one could resist the power of a supreme weapon. At this moment, Tao Xian, who was standing inside the protective array, saw the All-Kate Sacred Leader take out the All-Kate Cauldron. His eyes narrowed as a bad feeling rose in his heart. He knew it. At this moment, the crisis of the Langya Sacred Ground had truly arrived. The battle between the sacred grounds was never decided by the immortal realm. The only thing that could decide the outcome was a supreme weapon. The power of a supreme weapon was enough to make up for the lack of cultivation. Looking at the All-Kate Cauldron that had already enveloped the entire Langya Sacred Ground, Tao Xian's expression was extremely solemn. At this moment he could not directly take out his supreme weapon. Otherwise, the Langya sacred ground would be destroyed directly. No one could predict the aftermath of the collision between the two supreme weapons. However, Tao Xian firmly believed that the supreme power could easily destroy the entire Langya sacred ground. Moreover, Tao Xian was very clear. The five forces would definitely not only bring one supreme weapon. If he took out his supreme weapon early, the true essence in his body would be depleted very quickly. Even Tao Xian could not withstand the amount of true essence required to activate a supreme weapon. At this moment, Tao Xian could only personally take over the control of the protective array. With his strength, the power of the array would be greatly increased. This might be able to last for a while. After all, the energy required by a supreme weapon was too great. Even the sacred ground could not maintain it for long. Of course, if the two supreme weapons met, the two supreme auras would collide. Then, the supreme artifact would automatically awaken without the support of external energy. However, this was what Tao Xian was most worried about. This was also one of the reasons why he was unwilling to use Jizun at this moment. When the two supreme weapons met, a great battle between two supreme weapons would erupt. At that time, no one could predict what would happen. Therefore, Tao Xian could only take measures to prevent the two supreme weapons from clashing. Although Tao Xian's idea was good, he had underestimated the power of a supreme weapon. After the Alcade Cauldron awakened, its power was so terrifying that it made one despair. Hanging high in the sky, the supreme power descended, suppressing the entire void below. A vast supreme being aura poured down from the sky. Even if it was Dao Profound deploying the protective grand array at this moment, he similarly felt a tremendous pressure too. This was the power of a supreme weapon. It was the continuation of a supreme honorable's battle prowess after his death. Moreover, the array formation left behind by the Lord Langya. It only had the power of protection. How could it withstand the attack of a supreme weapon? It seems that the Holy Lord Langya can't withstand it. After all, it's a supreme weapon. It's already a miracle that he can withstand it for so long with the array formation. Is the Langya sacred ground going to be destroyed today? Many of the surrounding experts sighed when they saw this scene. At their level, they naturally understood. Without the supreme power, it was impossible to resist a supreme weapon. Tao Xian, let's see how long you can withstand it. Seeing that Tao Xian could withstand his Alcade Cauldron with only the array formation, the Holy Lord Langya's expression turned ugly. The Alcade Sacred Lord's face turned ugly. In the next moment, he increased the amount of vital essence he was channeling. He did his best to awaken the Alcade Cauldron. Buzz. As the Holy Lord increased the true core strength, the Alcade Cauldron let out a vast sound. The sound was filled with an ancient aura and it resounded in everyone's heart. In the next moment, endless divine light shone from the Alcade Cauldron and shrouded the entire space. Endless pressure suddenly swept across the entire area. Even the essence energy in the universe seemed to be wiped out. Bang! At that moment, the Alcade Cauldron in the sky suddenly let out a loud roar. In the next moment, the Alcade Cauldron actually fell slowly. An extremely powerful oppressive force pressed down on the ground. Under the pressure, the entire ground seemed to be sinking. In the Langya sacred ground. At that moment, the 7 hall masters and elders who were hovering in the void suddenly turned pale. In the next moment, everyone spat out a mouthful of blood. Boom! In the void, the Alcade Cauldron let out another roar. At the same time, an extremely secretive fluctuation swept out in all directions. Seeing this scene, Dao Yen turned pale with fright, a look of urgency on his face. Not good. Crack. At that moment, a crack appeared on the light shield that had been covering the Langya sacred ground. Then more and more cracks appeared. Until it cracked. The protective array was finally broken. In the next moment, the supreme power of the Alcade Cauldron directly shrouded all the Langya disciples. Feeling the overwhelming pressure, countless disciples trembled. Their faces instantly turned as pale as gold paper, and some even spat out blood. The supreme power was not something that the Langya disciples with low cultivation could withstand. Even the immortal realm giants were greatly affected. Not to mention these ordinary disciples. Although the supreme weapon's power did not directly affect them. Even if it was the aftermath, it was also something that they could not withstand. Ha ha ha. In the void, the Alcade Sacred Leader activated the Alcade Cauldron and laughed wildly. Tao Xian, back then, you used the supreme weapon to suppress the Alcade Sacred Ground. Have you ever thought that today's disaster would happen? The true origin energy in his body erupted. Under his control, the Alcade cauldron continued to shine brightly. At that moment, the Alcade's sacred leader displayed his peerless power. With the supreme weapon in his hand, he could be said to be an invincible existence. Even the strongest person present, Demon King Jiao, could not compare to his unparalleled demeanor. Sensing everyone's respect for him, the Alcade's sacred leader felt a sense of pride and heroism. Speaking of which, this was also the first time he had awakened his supreme weapon. At that moment, the Alcade's sacred leader took another step forward. For a moment, the mountains and rivers shook violently, and the world seemed to be about to collapse. This was the power of the supreme weapon. Invincible, domineering, unbeatable. Facing this power, the Langya disciples and even the elders who had lost the protection of the protective array were all forced to retreat. Their bodies kept retreating and they could not help but tremble. All the disciples and elders were retreating, and their bodies were trembling. Some disciples could not withstand the pressure and directly knelt down. These people could not withstand the supreme weapon's power at all. Presumptuous. Seeing this scene, Tao Xian's face was extremely gloomy, and he immediately shouted. In the next moment, a peerless painting slowly unfolded behind him. In this scroll, there were all kinds of rivers, great rivers, high mountains, flowing water, and the rotation of stars. It was the supreme weapon of the Langya sacred ground, the Langya mountain and river painting. At this moment, Tao Xian finally took out the Lord of Langya's weapon. The moment the Langya mountain and river painting appeared, all the Langya sacred ground disciples felt their bodies relax. The boundless pressure that had been on them previously disappeared instantly. In the void, the Langya mountain and river painting hovered above the 9 heavens. Above it, there was endless divine light flowing, and it enveloped the entire Langya sacred ground. The Langya mountain and river painting actually blocked the power of the Alcade cauldron from the outside world. Of course, the Langya mountain and river painting had not been completely awakened by Tao Xian at this moment. Otherwise, the Langya sacred ground would not be so peaceful at this moment. At this moment, Tao Xian was standing above the void. Behind him was the supreme weapon. The eyes of the Alcade sacred master shot out a ray of golden light. Dao Yan, in the end you still took out your supreme weapon. The Alcade sacred master spoke with a smile on his face. Unlike the previous time at the Alcade sacred ground, the Alcade sacred master was not afraid of Tao Xian, who was holding the supreme weapon. Because this time he had also taken out his supreme weapon. Moreover, it was not the Alcade sacred ground below, but the Langya sacred ground. Once the two supreme weapons collided, it was hard to tell who would win. Moreover, the Langya sacred ground would be the one to suffer. The power of the supreme weapon could possibly destroy the entire Langya sacred ground. Moreover, even if he lost, the Alcade sacred master was not afraid at all. At this moment, there were still the 4 great forces standing behind him. Isn't this what you want to see? Tao Xian said calmly as he looked coldly at the Alcade sacred master. At this moment, he could see that the 5 great forces were willing to destroy the Langya sacred ground at all costs. Therefore Tao Xian had nothing to say. He could only fight. At this moment, Tao Xian no longer had any scruples in his heart. So what if the supreme weapon had awakened on its own? So what if the eastern wilderness was facing a disaster? As the Holy Lord of Langya, even the Langya sacred ground was about to be destroyed. How could he care so much? Tao Xian, I didn't expect you to end up like this. The Azure Cloud Sacred Master, the Sacred Master of Luo Tian, and the others slowly walked out from behind the Alcade Sacred Master. At this moment, Demon King Jiao and the Master of Fairy Fox smirked. Since the defense had been broken, what was next was a massacre. Alright, there's no need for us to waste our breath on him. Since he's determined to protect the holy son of Haotian, who has fallen into the demon path, we don't have to be polite. Demon King Jiao stared coldly at Tao Xian with his golden eyes and announced in front of everyone, the Langya sacred ground has committed a heinous crime and is no longer worthy of being the human sacred ground. At this moment, Demon King Jiao's goal was clear. Destroy the Langya sacred ground and kill the holy son of Haotian. Of course, Tao Xian was also very clear about this. At this moment, he carried the Langya landscape painting on his back, and his expression did not change at all. In the next moment, Tao Xian looked at all the disciples of the Langya sacred ground and said sternly, all disciples of the Langya sacred ground, listen up. At this moment, Tao Xian's aura was incomparably powerful. Standing in the void, Tao Xian shouted, follow me to protect the sacred ground and the reputation of the Holy Sun. In the void, Tao Xian's voice rang out. It slowly spread throughout the entire Langya sacred ground. This voice was full of power and dominance. It made the Langya disciples, who were originally afraid of the supreme weapon, regain their confidence. All the Langya disciples slowly raised their heads and looked up at the supreme weapon in the void. Their eyes were filled with unparalleled determination. After that, all of the Langya's disciples spoke in unison. Protect the sacred ground and the reputation of the Holy Sun. Protect the sacred ground and the reputation of the Holy Sun. Protect the sacred ground and the reputation of the Holy Sun. At this moment, none of the Langya disciples chose to escape. They all straightened their backs. In the face of the pressure from the 5 superpowers, they chose to face death with equanimity. The onlookers and the 5 superpowers looked at each other. When they saw this scene, their faces revealed a wisp of extreme shock. They never expected the disciples of the Langya sacred ground to be so united. When the higher-ups of the 3 Eastern Wilderness sacred grounds, including the Qingyun sacred ground, Yaoguang sacred ground, and Luotian sacred ground saw this scene, they could not help but be shocked. They could not help but wonder if they were faced with the same crisis. How many disciples in their sacred ground would be willing to fight alongside the sacred ground? There were probably not many people who were willing to live and die with the sacred ground. At this moment, the Luotian sacred leader and the Qingyun sacred leader narrowed their eyes at this scene. Such unity. The Langya sacred ground could be said to have great potential. It seemed that the Langya sacred ground could not be left alive. The sacred grounds of the Eastern Wilderness were collectively known as the 7 sacred grounds of the human race. However, the 7 sacred grounds were also scheming against each other. Everyone was a sacred ground. Who would be willing to submit to others? At this moment, they witnessed the terrifying unity of the Langya sacred ground. They were even more determined to find a way to destroy the Langya sacred ground. Boom. At this moment, the Alcade sacred leader activated the Alcade cauldron again. Without hesitation, he directly injected a large amount of his true origin into the Alcade cauldron. Rumble. In the next moment, the Alcade cauldron released a vast amount of power. Every inch of the cauldron seemed to be deified. It was extremely terrifying. Seeing this scene, Tao Xian naturally did not want to be outdone. Since the other party insisted on using the supreme weapon, he naturally had no other choice. He could only accompany them to the end. Then, he injected the terrifying true origin directly into the Langya Mountain River illustration. Boom. Then, another supreme weapon began to awaken. Seeing this, the surrounding experts who were watching retreated once again. This was a battle between 2 supreme weapons. Such a terrifying scene caused them to be extremely shocked. How many years had it been? The Eastern Wilderness had not been so turbulent for a long time. At this moment, the 2 supreme weapons in the void completely awakened. Rumble. At this moment, the Alcade cauldron and the Langya Mountain River illustration shone with a shocking light. Then, the Alcade cauldron and the Langya Mountain River illustration broke away from the control of Tao Xian and the Alcade sacred leader. As they were both supreme weapons, they naturally felt the supreme aura of the other party. Every supreme weapon that was born was imprinted with the supreme aura of a supreme being. Every single supreme being was an invincible existence in the world. How could such an existence tolerate someone with the same level of strength as them? At this moment, the 2 supreme weapons had awakened on their own. Tao Xian and the Alcade sacred leader's eyes lit up. Both parties took a step forward at the same time. In an instant, the 2 of them and the supreme weapons turned into terrifying divine light and disappeared. Heaven and earth shook. Chapter 199. After the Alcade sacred leader and the Holy Lord of Langya left, a series of explosions could be heard in the sky. Seeing this scene, the spectators all heaved a sigh of relief. They understood that the Holy Lord of Langya and the Alcade sacred leader were unwilling to see the Eastern Wilderness suffer. Thus, they had reached an agreement to head to the extraterritorial region to fight. Otherwise, when the supreme weapons fought, the supreme weapon's supreme force would sweep across the surroundings. The entire Eastern Wilderness would be smashed into pieces. After all, there were other holy lands in the Eastern Wilderness. If the Eastern Wilderness was shattered, the other sacred grounds would not be able to protect themselves. Moreover, the power of a supreme artifact was extremely terrifying. It was very likely that it would affect other supreme artifacts. If all the supreme weapons in the Eastern Wilderness were to awaken on their own, then, it would cause a chaotic battle between the supreme weapons. By then, it would not be just a disaster in the Eastern Wilderness. The entire martial god continent would be affected. It would be a terrifying disaster for the entire martial god continent. At this moment, the Alcade Sacred Leader and the Holy Lord of Langia held their supreme weapons and started an earth-shattering battle in the extraterritorial region. Instantly, a series of explosions could be heard. From time to time, endless divine power would descend from the sky. Under the pressure of this power, all the martial artists felt that they were insignificant, just like ordinary people. They could be annihilated at any time. At this moment, the battle between the supreme weapons was also happening in the extraterritorial region. This was a supreme weapon. It was the continuation of the strongest supreme weapon's power. In the face of such power, how many people could maintain their composure? Although the protective array had been destroyed, the 5 superpowers were not in a hurry to kill the disciples of the Langia sacred ground. Everyone knew in their hearts that the outcome of today's battle would ultimately depend on the supreme artifact. If the Holy Lord of Langia won, the Langia sacred ground would be saved. However, if the Alcade Sacred Leader won, the Langia sacred ground would cease to exist in the future. In short, the final result of this battle was, it would depend on the victory of the 2 peak-level experts. At this moment, everyone was paying attention to the battle. The Holy Lord of Langia and the Alcade Sacred Leader were fighting in the extraterritorial region. Although no one could see the details of the battle. However, from time to time, the aura that spread down from the sky caused everyone's heart to tremble. Who would emerge victorious in this battle? Just like that, as both sides waited anxiously, time passed quickly. During this time, the elders and disciples of the Langia sacred ground all looked up at the sky. They were very worried, anxiously waiting for the outcome of the battle between the 2 holy masters. Boom! After waiting for an unknown period of time, a shocking rumble suddenly resounded in the sky. Hearing this voice, the hearts of everyone below trembled. Then endless light and supreme power fell from the sky. Everyone was in disbelief when they sensed this supreme power. This was the aura of Langia's landscape painting. This great battle. The Holy Lord of Langia had won. The Holy Lord of Langia actually won. No, that's the aura of the Holy Lord Langia. He's actually at the immortal and undying level. How is this possible? How can he be so strong? You have to know that a battle between supreme weapons also requires energy to support it. The Alcade Sacred Leader's strength is only at the immortal and creator level. The Alcade Sacred Leader has lost this battle. In the outside world of the Holy Lord of Langia, some holy masters were hiding in the void. When this aura appeared, they realized that it was the aura of the Holy Lord of Langia. When this aura neared, everyone below also realized that it was Tao Xian's aura. No one expected that the winner of this battle would be Tao Xian. Moreover, the Holy Lord of Langia, who had always kept a low profile, had actually reached the immortal and undying level unknowingly. One had to know that in the eyes of all the warriors in the eastern wilderness, there were only 2 people who had reached this level. They were the Kunlun Sacred Leader and the Linglong Sacred Leader. As for the other sacred leaders, they were probably only at the immortal and creator level. However, Tao Xian, the ordinary Holy Lord of Langia, had actually broken through to the immortal and undying level without anyone noticing. It was true that one could amaze the world with a single brilliant feat. The strength of a supreme weapon was naturally closely related to the cultivation of the user. As an immortal and undying level expert, Tao Xian could naturally provide more energy to the Langia Mountain River painting. In this battle, the Langia Mountain River painting had definitely suppressed the Alcade Cauldron. Seeing this scene, many people already thought that, after this battle, the Langia sacred ground should be fine. When the elders and disciples of the Langia sacred ground saw that Tao Xian had won, they heaved a sigh of relief. Looking at Tao Xian's unparalleled figure, they were extremely excited. The sacred leader was actually at the immortal and undying level. He was at the same level as the Linglong sacred leader. This time, as long as the sacred leader was around, the Langia sacred ground would be fine. At the same time, the 2 supreme weapons in the extraterritorial region were emitting boundless divine light. As they collided, the enormous power generated from the collision crushed over 100 huge stars. Hundreds of millions of meteorites were destroyed in the battle between the 2 supreme weapons. At this moment, the Alcade sacred leader couldn't hold on any longer. In the next moment, his face turned pale and he spat out a mouthful of blood. He looked at Tao Xian in disbelief. Obviously, he couldn't believe that Tao Xian had such strength. When the surrounding people saw this scene, they were shocked. Today, the 5 forces had suppressed the Langia sacred ground. Were they going to return empty-handed? Alcade sacred leader, you're just SOSO. In the sky, Tao Xian shouted and increased the input of energy. Alcade sacred leader instantly looked even more miserable and he was about to lose. However, just as the Alcate sacred leader was about to lose, among the 5 forces the Azure Cloud sacred leader slowly stood out. The Azure Cloud sacred leader took a step forward. At the same time, a shocking aura was emitted from his body. Everyone was shocked when they felt the aura. It was the aura of a supreme weapon. Another supreme weapon was about to be awakened. At this moment the Azure Cloud sacred leader was standing in the sky. Behind him, a divine cauldron was floating slowly. On the divine cauldron, there was an oppressive aura that swept out in all directions. There were thousands of mythical beasts engraved on the cauldron and a vast aura was exuding. The divine cauldron was as dazzling as the real sun. A powerful force surged out from it. There were divine flames surrounding it and the heat was as though it could melt everything in the universe. It was a divine cauldron. It was the Tao weapon of the founder of the Azure Cloud Sacred Ground, the Azure Cloud Sovereign. The Azure Cloud Universe Furnace. Back then the Azure Cloud Sovereign relied on this divine cauldron to become a supreme. The power of the Azure Cloud Universe Furnace wasn't any weaker than the Langya Mountain River painting and the Alcate Cauldron. When they saw the Azure Cloud Universe Furnace floating in the sky, everyone's face turned pale. When the elders and disciples of the Langya Sacred Ground saw this, their faces turned pale again. They thought that this battle would end with the Holy Lord of Langya's victory. However, they didn't expect the Azure Cloud Sacred Leader to take out another supreme weapon at this crucial moment. Could it be that the Langya Sacred Ground was going to be destroyed today? As expected, the 5 forces came prepared when they attacked the Langya Sacred Ground. They came prepared. Since one supreme weapon couldn't suppress the Langya Sacred Ground, they used 2 supreme weapons. I think there might be another supreme weapon. The spectating experts discussed among themselves. They were also shocked when the Azure Cloud Sacred Leader took out the Azure Cloud Universe Furnace. They didn't expect the 5 forces to be willing to use 2 supreme weapons in order to destroy the Langya Sacred Ground. Now 2 supreme weapons were attacking the Langya Sacred Ground. This was simply bullying with numbers. If it was a one-on-one battle, none of the forces in the Wuxian continent could destroy the Langya Sacred Ground. Tao Xian was an immortal realm expert. Even if someone could pose a threat to him, however, it was extremely difficult to take his life. However, now that the 2 supreme weapons were used, the Langya Sacred Ground was really in danger. After taking out the Azure Cloud Universe Furnace, the Azure Cloud Sacred Leader slowly floated in the sky above the Langya Sacred Ground. Looking at the disciples of the Langya Sacred Ground below, he smiled mysteriously. In the next moment he turned into a ray of light. He carried the Azure Cloud Universe Furnace and soared into the sky to join the battle outside the region. In an instant, an aura that could destroy the world suddenly poured down on the ground. Everyone's face turned pale. Even though the battle was outside the region, the aftershock that poured out allowed them to experience the power of a supreme weapon. At this moment, the elders and disciples of the Langya Sacred Ground were in despair. They didn't expect the 5 forces to be so shameless. If it was a one-on-one battle, their sacred leader would lose. All the disciples of the Langya Sacred Ground were speechless. But now the other party had used 2 supreme weapons. Moreover, it was 2 against 1. 2 people at the level of a sacred leader attacked their sacred leader. How could their sacred leader be a match for them? Rumble. At this moment there was another explosion in the sky. The astral winds in the sky seemed to have been shattered. Some powerful martial artists could even see stars shattering one after another. An Immortal Realm level 5 expert could shatter stars. Not to mention an Immortal Realm expert with a supreme weapon. That kind of destructive power. It was enough to dominate the 3,000 worlds. Rumble. Suddenly there was another rumbling sound. At this moment, it seemed as though the world was about to be destroyed. In the next moment, the disciples of the Langya Sacred Ground suddenly realized that there was a rain of blood in the void. Seeing this scene, the people from the Langya Sacred Ground felt their hearts in their throats. Dong. At this moment, a white figure smashed down from the sky and landed on top of a huge mountain. Rumble. A 10,000 zhang tall mountain was directly smashed into smithereens and collapsed. Countless people watched this scene with their eyes wide open. Rumble. Then the white figure walked out and stood in the void again. It was the Holy Lord of Langya, Tao Xian. It was just that Dao Yan's current state looked incomparably miserable. A huge hole had been blasted open in his chest. Even his shoulders seemed to have been smashed. Scarlet blood kept dripping from the void. Sacred Leader. Seeing this scene, all the disciples of the Langya Sacred Ground cried out in grief. The people watching the battle also sighed when they saw this scene. They sighed in their hearts. The combined power of two supreme weapons was too terrifying. Even if Tao Xian had the strength of an immortal realm expert, he still ended up like this. In front of a supreme weapon, an immortal realm expert was still too weak. I'm fine. Seeing the concerned looks of the disciples of the Langya sacred ground, Tao Xian's face turned solemn and said, "You guys can leave first." Tao Xian knew in his heart that if he were to be defeated, no matter how many disciples of the Langya sacred ground went up, they would not be able to change the outcome of the battle. He knew that if he was not a match for them, even the supreme elder of the immortal realm would not be able to help. Tao Xian, are you still going to be stubborn? Then two figures slowly descended from the void. They were the Alcade sacred leader and the Green Cloud sacred leader. At this moment, the two of them looked calm and unparalleled. It was a stark contrast to the miserable Tao Xian. In the outer region, the three supreme weapons were still fighting. However, without Tao Xian's control, the Langya sacred ground illustration was completely suppressed. At this moment, Tao Xian was also seriously injured. So far, only 2 of the 5 forces had been mobilized. Admit defeat. Tao Xian, don't be stubborn. At this moment, Alcade's sacred leader looked down at the Holy Lord of Langya. It was as if he had completely forgotten that he had been suppressed by Tao Xian just now. At this moment, the 5 forces took a step forward. A vast pressure shook and completely suppressed the Langya sacred ground. Those primordial spirit, Dharma idol and immortal level existences. One by one they walked out. They directly sealed the world. As for Demon King Jiao, Fairy Fox King and the others, they faced Tao Xian directly. Their vast primordial spirit was completely revealed. Especially Demon King Jiao. He even had the cultivation of the immortal realm. 5 terrifying immortal level figures were suppressing Tao Xian together. However, at this moment, Tao Xian still had a fearless look on his face. He took a deep breath and slowly spoke to everyone present. I said that all the disciples of the Langya sacred ground will fight to the end. At this moment, Tao Xian was very calm. Although his body was stained with blood, he still lived up to the name of a sacred master. Countless people saw this scene and felt admiration in their hearts. However, that was all there was to it. Even if he was an immortal level figure, how could he face those 5 terrifying existences? Some people even shook their heads and sighed. Could it be that the Langya sacred ground was really going to be destroyed? If that's the case, then I'll fulfill your wish. Seeing this, Demon King Jiao's golden eyes flickered with a cold light as he spoke coldly. He was wearing golden armor, dazzling and eye-catching. As the person with the strongest cultivation among the 5 forces. Even in the face of Tao Xian, who had powerful strength, he was not afraid. From today onwards, the human race will no longer have the Langya sacred ground. And you, Tao Xian, will be the greatest sinner in the history of the Langya sacred ground. It was your stubbornness that caused the destruction of the Langya sacred ground by harboring the holy son of Haotian, who had already become a demon. He kept speaking. Not only did he want to kill Tao Xian physically, he also wanted to kill him mentally. That was the only way. Only then could he feel carefree. After saying this, Demon King Jiao no longer hesitated. His hands turned into shocking claws and directly attacked Tao Xian. At the same time, the sacred master of Azure Cloud and the others also took a step forward to suppress Tao Xian. Countless people closed their eyes. It was as if they did not want to see a legacy destroyed just like that. But at this moment, the spears of the underworld flew out one after another. The phenomenon of the 18 levels of hell enveloped the world. Countless people felt a chill in their hearts. At the end of the horizon, a purple-robed figure appeared. His wings covered the world and emitted a mysterious light. His killing intent was majestic. His power was shocking. Chapter 200. A vast and boundless killing intent spread out from the void. The killing intent seemed to have materialized. It was suffocating. It was a black spear of the underworld, and it carried the aura of hell. The aura on it was incomparably sharp, and it had the ability to suppress and kill all living beings. At this moment, the spear of the underworld shot towards him from the horizon. The power it carried caused the entire void to change. In everyone's eyes, shadows of hell began to appear in the void one after another. The entire world seemed to have turned into a world of Azura. At this moment, the spear of the underworld was shooting towards Demon King Jiao. Looking at the spear of the underworld rushing towards him, Demon King Jiao's golden eyes flashed and he frowned slightly. Although he didn't think much of the spear of the underworld, the aura of hell that emanated from it caught his attention. This power was so strange. It actually caused the origin energy in his body to stagnate. When the spear of the underworld was about to hit Demon King Jiao's body, only then did he raise his hand unhurriedly. Then, without any unnecessary movements, his golden eyes narrowed slightly. His hands were like heavenly claws, and he directly shattered the spear of the underworld. It was also at this moment that everyone turned to look at the purple-robed figure that was coming from the horizon. The purple-robed figure stood on the horizon. The wings on his back flapped, and he exuded a mysterious aura. Then the wings on the purple-robed figure's back flapped slightly. Immediately, the sound of thunder resounded between heaven and earth. In the next moment, the purple-robed figure disappeared from the horizon and appeared in front of everyone. His aura was incomparably terrifying, as if a god had descended to the mortal world. Then, the purple-robed figure took a step forward and stood side by side with the Holy Lord of Langia and Tao Xian. At this moment, the wings on his back had already disappeared, and his purple robes fluttered without wind. His long and slender hair danced in the void. His body was incomparably tall and straight, like a pillar that supported the heavens. Just by standing there he seemed to be able to suppress the entire void. At this moment, everyone finally saw the true face of the purple-robed figure. It was Jun Haoyan. Everyone looked at Jun Haoyan, who was standing beside Tao Xian, with astonishment in their eyes. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. It's Holy Son of Haoyan. He's not in the Langia Sacred Land, but he actually came back at this time. Doesn't he know that the 5 great powers are here for him? Only death awaits us if we return to the Langia Holy Land. The aura that the Holy Son of Haoyan exuded just now is not right. He seems to have stepped into the primordial spirit Dharma form stage. Looking at the Holy Son of Haoyan, who was standing beside Tao Xian, everyone began to discuss. Some people were shocked that Jun Haoyan dared to return at this time. There were also people who were shocked that Jun Haoyan had broken into the primordial spirit Dharma plane. But in the end, everyone was extremely shocked by Jun Haoyan's sudden return. Facing countless shocked gazes, Jun Haoyan's expression did not change at all. At this moment, his figure was tall and straight, standing directly in the void. Terrifying true core strength flowed around him. His body was crystal clear, and streams of true core strength flowed from his body continuously. At this moment, Jun Haoyan looked at Tao Xian beside him. He saw that Tao Xian's body was covered with wounds, but none of them were fatal. As long as the head of an immortal realm martial artist was not decapitated, he would not die. Even if his limbs were broken or his internal organs were ruptured, it was not a big deal. Looks like I came just in time. Seeing that the Langia Sacred Land did not suffer heavy casualties, Jun Haoyan could not help but feel relieved, and his expression became slightly better. He had thought that it would take 3 days to reach the Langia Sacred Land from the Little Thunder Temple. However, the speed of the divine wings of liberty had far exceeded Jun Haoyan's expectations. In just 2 days, the divine wings of liberty had successfully brought him to the Langia Sacred Land. What made him happy was that the Langia Sacred Land had not suffered any losses. Why are you back? Why do you have to come back now? At this moment, Tao Xian's voice came from behind him. At this moment, Tao Xian's tone was actually a little sorrowful. In Tao Xian's eyes. Originally, no matter what happened, Jun Haoyan should not have appeared. Even if the Langia Sacred Land had been destroyed today. But as long as Jun Haoyan, the Holy Son of Haotian, was alive, then the Langia Sacred Land would have hope of recovery. But now, the Holy Son of Haotian had actually appeared directly. How could the 5 major forces let him live unscathed? At this moment, with his current condition, there was no way that he could protect Jun Haoyan. Thinking of this, Tao Xian looked at Jun Haoyan with a look of disappointment. Even his originally ramrod straight body seemed to have fallen into a slump. Previously, even if his body had been pierced and his shoulder had exploded, his body was covered in blood. However, Tao Xian would rather die than submit. His body was still straight. For the sake of all the Langia disciples behind him, he resisted the attacks of the 5 major forces. But now Tao Xian was a little disheartened. With his strength, there was no way that he could protect Jun Haoyan from the 5 major holy masters. Once Jun Haoyan, the most monstrous holy son of the Langia Sacred Land in tens of thousands of years, died. Then the hope of the Langia Sacred Land rising would really be destroyed. Even if the Langia Sacred Land was not destroyed by then, it would fall into a situation where it could not recover. If Jun Haoyan could survive with Jun Haoyan's talent, there would be a day where the Langia Sacred Land would rise again. Now this last hope was directly destroyed. In this battle, Jun Haoyan would definitely die. Holy Master, Langia is in trouble. As the holy son of Langya, how can I stay out of it? I came back this time to naturally resolve the crisis of the Langya sacred land today. Looking at Tao Xian, Jun Haoyin's face revealed a trace of a smile. His expression was incomparably relaxed. It was as if he did not care about the impending disaster at all. His expression was incomparably calm. At this moment, everyone in the Langya sacred land heard Jun Haoyin's words. The Langya disciples, elders, and even the temple master, who were originally in despair, looked behind them. The figure in purple who was standing side by side with the Holy Lord of Langya at this moment. That figure was as calm as usual and was still as peerless as ever. Even though some of the disciples and elders were very clear. Even if their holy son appeared, the outcome would not change. However, they did not know why. A trace of hope was ignited in everyone's heart. At least, the holy son would be able to return at the critical moment. This proved that their efforts to protect him were not in vain. Holy son of Haoyin, I didn't expect you to still dare to appear. At this moment, Alkate's sacred lord looked at Jun Haoyin and said coldly. He narrowed his eyes slightly and the true origin around him was constantly vibrating. It was as vast as a torrential river. Subsequently, Qingyun's sacred lord and Luotian's sacred lord also walked out slowly and looked at Jun Haoyin. Your return is indeed beyond our expectations. It seems that you still have a trace of humanity left. However, falling into the demon path is falling into the demon path. Even if you still have a trace of humanity left, you still have to die. The two sacred lords looked down at Jun Haoyin coldly and judged him. They were naturally surprised that Jun Haoyin could appear. As for Jun Haoyin's Dharma characteristic cultivation, they did not take him seriously. Although he had entered the Dharma characteristic realm at such a young age and could be considered one of the strongest prodigies in the Wuxian continent. However, a Dharma characteristic realm cultivation was simply not enough today. In fact, he could only be reduced to cannon fodder. Right now, the 5 top forces of the Wuxian continent were standing before them. No matter how talented he was, it was useless if he did not grow up. One more person would just be one more person to kill. Do you think you can destroy the Langya sacred ground just because you have more people? You're just a bunch of useless people. What can you do? Jun Haoyin smiled faintly as he stood in the void. The moment he opened his mouth, he directly declared that the 5 top forces were just a bunch of useless people. As soon as he said that, he had undoubtedly offended everyone in the 5 top forces. At that moment, a primordial soul Dharma characteristic elite from the Qingyun sacred ground walked out. He looked at Jun Haoyin with some sarcasm and said directly, such arrogance. It seems that the holy son of Haoyin has really fallen into the demon path and his demonic nature is not shallow. However, just as this elite finished speaking, Jun Haoyin suddenly moved. In just an instant, the wings of freedom spread out. He seemed to have directly crossed the layers of space between the two of them. He appeared directly in front of that person. Then, a punch came down. At that moment, a surge of power surged out. Although they were both in the Dharma characteristic realm, Jun Haoyin could even crush prodigies. Moreover, this was a sudden attack from him. Poof! In an instant, the body of the arrogant Dharma characteristic elite exploded and his primordial soul was instantly destroyed. At that moment, blood rained down from the sky. Everyone present was shocked. Chapter 2. The Great War. No one had expected the Holy Son of Great Heaven to display such a domineering move as soon as he appeared. Yet, he actually dared to stand before the 5 sempiternal realm experts of the 5 major powers. He had directly killed a primordial soul Dharma plane cultivator. Even the Alkate Saint Master and the others were slightly surprised by this scene. He looked at Jun Haoyin with a hint of surprise in his eyes. By the time they reacted, Jun Haoyin had already returned to his original position. His hands were still clasped behind his back as he spoke casually. Blabbermouth, damn it. Jun Haoyin's emotionless words made everyone's scalp go numb. Everyone looked at Jun Haoyin with a trace of fear in their eyes. The holy son of Haoyin was too arrogant. One had to know that Jun Haoyin was not facing just 1 or 2 geniuses. What he was facing was the alliance of the 5 great forces. This guy is still as arrogant as ever. The Jade Lake Saint, Gu Yuehuang, exclaimed when she saw this scene from afar. The holy son of Haoyin's way of doing things had not changed at all. Just like in the Supreme Relic, the holy son of the various holy lands without any scruples. Not only the Jade Lake Saint, but everyone present was extremely shocked. Even at this stage, the holy son of Haoyin was still so arrogant. It was truly inconceivable. At that moment, the 5 great forces began to react. They looked at Jun Haoyin and began to scold him loudly. Holy son of Haoyin, you are digging your own grave. How dare you kill people in front of us? How dare you? You don't take us seriously at all. His way of doing things is no different from the demon tribe. The holy son of Haoyin has fallen into the demon path. The experts of the 5 great forces spoke one after another. In the face of Jun Haoyin's arrogance, they were furious and could not restrain their anger. Jun Haoyin's actions showed that he did not take the 5 great forces seriously at all. If it were anyone else, they would definitely choose to retreat temporarily. However, Jun Haoyin was provoking them in front of them. How could they not be angry at such an action? The only ones who remained calm were the Alcade Holy Leader and the other 4. These people were already standing at the peak of the Wuxian continent. Although the Holy Son of Haoyin was a top genius, with Jun Haoyin's current strength, they did not take him seriously at all. Even though Jun Haoyin was very high profile. With their voices, they naturally would not curse like the others and tarnish the Holy Leader's reputation. However, this did not mean that they could let Jun Haoyin kill people in front of them. At the same time, streams of powerful aura surged out from their bodies. In an instant, the aura swept across the entire area. When the 5 great forces joined forces, there were hundreds of primordial spirit and dharma characteristic experts. Dozens of immortal stage 5 existences. With such strength, anyone could be suppressed directly. Not to mention the Holy Son of Haoyin, a mere dharma characteristic existence. However, Jun Haoyin did not care at all in the face of these people's scolding. He looked at the 5 great forces with a cold glint in his eyes. When some of the dharma characteristic existences looked at him, their bodies would tremble slightly. Although these people were dissatisfied with Jun Haoyin's domineering style, they had to admit it in their hearts. Jun Haoyin's strength was simply too strong. In the void, Jun Haoyin looked coldly at the 5 great forces and said slowly, "If you want to attack, just do it directly. Stop talking nonsense. No matter what move you use, come at me. The Langya's sacred ground will take it all." Jun Haoyin said slowly, domineering beyond compare. Hearing Jun Haoyin's words, even Tao Xian narrowed his eyes. At this point it was useless to think too much. It was better to fight to the death, to the end. Perhaps there was a glimmer of hope. At this thought, Tao Xian took a step forward. A gust of true origin flowed, and in the next moment, Tao Xian's injuries healed at a speed visible to the naked eye. This kind of injury was nothing to a peerless immortal realm expert like him. These were just superficial wounds that did not harm his Dao foundation at all. At this moment, Tao Xian's eyes were as sharp as knives. He stood side by side with Jun Haoyin and said directly, "Disciples of the Langya sacred ground, fight with me." Tao Xian's voice was not loud, but it rang in the hearts of all the disciples. The sacred leader did not back down. The Holy Son did not back down either. The temple masters and elders did not back down either. What right did they have to back down? Fight! 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 At this moment, countless Langya disciples roared. Their voices were incomparably loud, resounding throughout the world. In the next moment, in the central square of the Langya sacred ground, all the supreme elders of the Langya sacred ground sat cross-legged and poured their true origin into the square. Then the entire square shot out rays of divine light, covering the mountains and the earth. This was also the defensive array of the Langya sacred ground, but this array was only used to suppress the terrain. Otherwise, when the battle started, the sacred ground would be destroyed before the disciples of the Langya sacred ground were killed. In the outside world, when everyone saw this scene, their faces were filled with shock. Their hearts were trembling. One had to know that the 5 major forces had already used 2 supreme artifacts. The outcome of this battle was already clear. But now, the Langya sacred ground still wanted to fight, and they even took the initiative to fight. Where did the Langya sacred ground get their confidence from? Just as countless people were in shock, Demon King Jiao's slightly narrowed eyes suddenly burst out with a golden light. Without any hesitation, Demon King Jiao launched an attack. With the number of experts and their supreme artifacts, destroying the Langya sacred ground was a piece of cake. With the help of all the disciples, the 9 supreme elders once again formed a large array. This large array could be considered to be the strength of the entire Langya sacred ground. They directly covered all the experts of the 5 major forces who were at the 5th stage of the immortal realm. At the same time, Tao Xian also directly attacked. He directly took out an immortal spiritual artifact and enveloped Demon King Jiao and the Alcade sacred leader. Tao Xian actually wanted to rely on himself to fight against the 5 sacred leaders. In the outer realm, the battle of the supreme artifacts was still ongoing. Although the Langya Mountain River diagram was suppressed, it was not completely defeated yet. As for Jun Haoyin, he was facing nearly 200 primordial soul Dharma phase experts alone. When countless people saw this scene, other than shock in their hearts, there was also a trace of sadness. The outcome of this battle had long been decided. Although the 9 supreme elders of the Langya sacred ground were powerful, they were facing 70 to 80 experts of the 5th stage of the immortal realm. Even with the help of hundreds of thousands of disciples, they could only trap them for a while. Sooner or later the array would be broken. As for the Holy Lord of Langya, Tao Xian, although his strength was unparalleled, among the 5 sacred leaders led by Demon King Jiao, which one of them was not a peerless genius? How long could Tao Xian last against 5 of them alone? As for the Holy Son of Haoyin, although he had already advanced to the top of the Wuxian continent's elite, he was still young. But in the end he was only a member of the younger generation. How could he compete with figures of the older generation? Although there were not many existences above the Dharma phase realm among the 5 major forces this time, it could be said that it was easy to deal with a Dharma phase existence. But just as countless people were lamenting, Jun Haoyin actually took the initiative to attack. At this moment, Jun Haoyin directly took out the 6 Reincarnation Path tablet. The 6 Reincarnation Path tablet hung above his head. In an instant, the entire void was enveloped by the 6 Reincarnation Path tablet. At this moment, shock appeared in the hearts of countless people. They were shocked to discover that the Dharma treasure in the hands of the Holy Son of Haoyin not only enveloped all the primordial soul and Dharma phase experts present, it even enveloped the 5 immortal realm giants. What is the Holy Son of Haoyin trying to do? Could it be that facing nearly 200 experts is not enough? He wants to fight against the immortal realm giants? Isn't this a little overconfident? But just as everyone was shocked, the 6 Reincarnation Path tablet in Jun Haoyin's hands, it directly suppressed the entire Langya sacred ground. The 6 Reincarnation Path tablet floated in the air, revealing 6 different types of power. At this moment, not only did the primordial soul and Dharma phase experts' expressions change, even the immortal realm experts were the same. Because they discovered, after the 6 Reincarnation Path tablet appeared, their primordial soul, and divine powers were all suppressed. Some primordial soul and Dharma phase experts were directly suppressed and fell in cultivation. The power of the 6 Reincarnation Path tablet. It was incomparably terrifying. Chapter 201. As soon as the 6 paths of Reincarnation tablet appeared, it instantly sealed the surrounding space. Together with the 9 elders of the Langya sacred ground, it formed a huge domain. It contained all the experts of the 5 superpowers, including the 5 immortal realms. Apart from the people of the Langya sacred ground, everyone who was trapped in the 6 paths of Reincarnation tablet would more or less be affected. What's going on? Why can't I use my celestial appearance? What kind of treasure did the Holy Sun take out? Why does it seem like my cultivation is sealed? How is this possible? Even my immortal realm cultivation is affected. At this moment, the people of the 5 superpowers kept exclaiming. They looked at the 6 paths of Reincarnation tablet in the void with disbelief in their eyes. What kind of treasure was that? How could it be so strange? Not only did it seal their primordial spirits, but it also sealed their cultivation and celestial appearance. Wasn't this a little too shocking? It had to be said that Jun Haoyin's move stunned everyone present. Even Demon King Jiao, who was fighting with Tao Xian, looked at Jun Haoyin in surprise. However, that was all. No matter how mysterious Jun Haoyin's treasure was, it could not affect anything. This battle ultimately depended on their battle with Tao Xian. Once Tao Xian was defeated, the Langya Mountain River painting would be suppressed. No matter how much Jun Haoyin could stir up trouble, it would be useless. With the supreme weapon, Demon King Jiao and the others could easily suppress Jun Haoyin. No matter what Jun Haoyin did, it would be useless. Then the fierce battle continued. It had to be said that Tao Xian's strength was indeed terrifying. As an immortal realm cultivator, Tao Xian's strength was definitely not weaker than Demon King Jiao's. For so many years, no one had discovered Tao Xian's strength. It was obvious that he had hidden his strength so deeply. If it was a one-on-one, Tao Xian's hidden strength would definitely catch his opponent off guard. But at this moment, even if his hidden strength was exposed, it would be of no use. Facing 5 Holy Master level existences, only an Emperor Realm Master could reverse the situation. On the other side, Jun Haoyin also attacked without hesitation. A vast amount of true essence could shake one's soul. At this moment, Jun Haoyin stood alone in the void. His body was filled with an aura that made one's heart palpitate. Supreme Elders, all you need to do is protect the Holy Land. I, the Holy Sun, am more than enough to kill these ants. Looking at the people from the 5 major forces, Jun Haoyin revealed a trace of killing intent as he sneered. Judging from his words, he was planning to fight all the experts of the 5 great factions by himself. Holy Son of Haoyin, you are too arrogant. Do you really think that you can be so arrogant and despotic with just a single treasure? Come and try if you have the guts. Let's see how miserable your death will be. Some of the experts from the 5 great factions kept scolding. Their voices were like thunder, causing people's hearts to tremble. Then shocking killing intent leaked out from their bodies. In the next moment they actually rushed towards Jun Haoyin. Before coming to Langya Holy Land, their sects had secretly instructed them about the strength of their sects. As long as anyone could kill Haoyin Holy Sun, they would be able to obtain the benefits of all 5 great factions. Moreover, Jun Haoyin's arrogant attitude at this moment made them want to kill him. In their opinion, Jun Haoyin was courting death. Since that was the case, they couldn't blame him. Seeing this scene, the Supreme Elders of Langya Holy Land looked at each other with worry in their eyes. How could Haoyin Holy Sun win against these masters alone? Even if the Holy Sun's treasure was extremely powerful, he was facing 200 Transcendence Realm existences. Trust me, it'll be fine. Seeing the change in their expressions, Jun Haoyin naturally knew what they were thinking and said directly. As soon as he finished speaking, a vast amount of true essence surged out from his body. At this moment the weather changed. Then a Sarira like the sun slowly appeared on Jun Haoyin's body. This Sarira was emitting an extremely dazzling light. When the light shone on Jun Haoyin's body, it made him look like the king of heaven and earth. Moreover, there were already 18 ancient Buddhas slowly appearing on the relic. They sat quietly around Jun Haoyin with their legs crossed, chanting scriptures continuously. In the next moment, an extremely terrifying aura suddenly erupted from Jun Haoyin's body. This was the aura of an immortal realm powerhouse. The moment this aura appeared, it contained a terrifying power that caused the entire world to explode. Boom. After receiving the help of the 18 Supremacy's great salvation immeasurable Sarira, Jun Haoyin directly reached the immortal realm. In the next moment, Jun Haoyin did not stop at all and directly attacked. At the same time, a boundless sea of blood suddenly appeared behind Jun Haoyin as if it was real. Above the sea of blood, 12 demon gods slowly appeared. Then, the power of the 12 demon gods was all added to Jun Haoyin's body. Capital Demon God Technique. The next moment, Jun Haoyin let out a roar and threw out a simple punch. This punch was heavy and powerful, containing an unparalleled power that could shock the heavens. Under Jun Haoyin's terrifying punch, the dozen Transcendence Realm experts who charged towards Jun Haoyin were directly killed. Facing Jun Haoyin, who was at the immortal realm, they had no ability to resist at all. This punch was enough to shake the world. As for the dozen or so Transcendence Realm experts who were hit by Jun Haoyin's punch, their bodies directly exploded. Even their primordial spirits were completely annihilated by that punch. In an instant, countless drops of blood dripped from the void like a torrential rain of blood, pouring onto the ground. When everyone saw this horrifying scene, their faces were filled with disbelief. One punch. Holy Sun Hao Tian actually killed more than a dozen Transcendence Realm experts with a simple punch. Just how terrifying was this strength? Seeing this scene, even the Grand Elders of the Langya Sacred Ground looked at each other, not knowing what to say. Help the Holy Sun stabilize the domain. Don't let them escape. At this moment, a Grand Elder spoke. At this moment they were pleasantly surprised. Their Holy Sun actually had such combat strength. Okay. Hearing that, the Grand Elders spoke one after another with high fighting spirit. They tried their best to channel their true essence to stabilize this world. Let Jun Haoyin fight to his heart's content inside. Everyone, don't be afraid. Stabilize yourselves. Holy Sun Hao Tian only used a secret technique to temporarily increase his cultivation. He won't be able to last long. Attack him now and kill him directly. An immortal realm expert from the 5 major forces shouted loudly. A vast power slowly condensed in the void. At this moment they had more than 200 Transcendence Realm experts. They were all influential figures on the Wuxian continent. Now that they were gathered together, how could they be afraid of a junior like Jun Haoyin? Thinking of this, everyone took out all kinds of magic treasures. They attacked Jun Haoyin with all their might. Since you're courting death, I'll fulfill your wish. Jun Haoyin spoke. Dressed in purple, he was peerless. There was an indescribable domineering aura. At this moment he was temporarily standing in the immortal realm, Although he was only in the first realm, it was Jun Haoyan's foundation. He could easily challenge the geniuses from all over the world. His strength was truly terrifying. Sunshot Divine Bow. Without any hesitation, he directly took out the Sunshot Divine Bow. Boom. In an instant an arrow was shot out. Like a thunderclap, the wind and clouds moved. Only those who were in the immortal realm could truly unleash the power of a supreme-grade magic treasure. This sword strike could kill immortals and Buddhas. In an instant, it pierced through 3 primordial spirit Dharma idol powerhouses. They didn't even last a breath before they died. A rain of blood poured down once again. The void seemed to be dyed red. All kinds of treasures were shattered and all kinds of powerful figures were killed. At this moment, Jun Haoyan had turned into a god of slaughter. Every time he attacked, someone was bound to die. Finally, the immortal realm powerhouses who were about to break the domain couldn't take it anymore. 10 of them walked out and strode over. Jun Haoyan had killed more than 40 primordial spirit Dharma idols in that period of time. They couldn't take it anymore. At this moment, Jun Haoyan also put away the Sunshot Divine Bow in his hand. He quietly looked at the person in front of him. Dressed in purple, he galloped. This was his first time fighting against an immortal realm powerhouse. But even so, he was fearless. Today, he was the holy son of Haoyan. He had to stop killing with killing. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. At this moment, in front of Jun Haoyan, there were 10 immortal realm powerhouses. Although their strength was suppressed under the effect of the 6 paths of reincarnation tablet. But after all, they had the numbers, so their cultivation wasn't directly reduced. The immortal realm aura emitted from their bodies was still terrifying. Facing this aura, Jun Haoyan was naturally fearless. The next moment he directly took a step forward. In an instant the entire world began to shake, and an incomparably vast aura spread out in all directions. Sensing this aura, the 10 immortal realm powerhouses narrowed their eyes slightly. In the next moment they attacked without hesitation. The moment they attacked, they used extremely terrifying divine abilities. In fact, some of them even used immortal spirit artifacts. In the entire eastern wilderness, not many people could withstand such an extremely fierce attack. However, in the face of this attack, Jun Haoyan's expression didn't change. He didn't even take out his treasures. In the next moment, a vast power erupted from Jun Haoyan's body. In the face of this shocking attack, Jun Haoyan still threw out a simple punch. Behind him, 18 supreme ancient Buddhas chanted scriptures, and 12 fiend gods descended. Under the contrast of the endless Buddhist light and fiend chi, Jun Haoyan seemed to have transformed into a divine king. In the next moment he directly threw out a punch. For a moment the world shook. The combined attack of 10 immortal realm peerless powerhouses was actually destroyed by Jun Haoyan's punch. This scene caused everyone to be unable to help but be astounded. In the next moment, they directly ordered all the Dharma characteristic existences to come and assist. They were prepared to besiege Jun Haoyan together. At this moment, they realized that with their strength, they couldn't defeat this man in front of them. Only by joining forces would they have a chance of winning. At this moment, even existences like them had to admit that the holy son of Haoyan was simply too powerful. At this moment, the true essence in Jun Haoyan's body vibrated, and his eyes shone brightly. All sorts of powerful forces surged out. In the face of the essence soul and Dharma characteristic powerhouses that besieged him again, Jun Haoyan only had one punch. Boom. In an instant, the terrifying punch killed 10 Dharma characteristic powerhouses again. Now, Jun Haoyan's strength had already reached the immortal realm. He could kill as many Dharma characteristic existences as there were. One had to know that before he reached the immortal realm, Jun Haoyan already had the strength to fight against immortal realm powerhouses. Not to mention that he already had the strength of the immortal realm now. In the next moment, Jun Haoyan's eyes flashed, and he executed the Supreme 9 Secrets battle formula. In an instant, he transformed into an unparalleled war immortal, and every move contained a terrifying power of destruction. It was breathtaking. The battle formula could evolve into tens of thousands of techniques and transform them into the most unparalleled offensive power. This time, Jun Haoyan's methods became even stronger, causing everyone to be shocked. The 18 Supremacy's great salvation immeasurable relic shone on his body. It allowed his cultivation to reach the peak of the immortal realm. A casual move could shatter mountains and rivers. Seeing this scene, the 10 Immortal Realm powerhouses' faces turned pale, and they kept retreating. The terrifying aura around Jun Haoyan made them not dare to approach. Even the Immortal Realm powerhouses who had been alive for 10,000 years were like this, let alone the other Dharma characteristic experts. Some people were even shocked and couldn't believe it. Everything that was happening now. It was also at this moment that behind Jun Haoyan, the shadow of a demon's supremacy appeared with 3,000 hands. Each hand held an underworld deity spear. Layers of hellish aura surged, causing the surrounding heaven and earth essence energy to collapse. A total of 3,000 underworld deity spears appeared. On each divine spear, 8 levels of hell appeared. The powerful and terrifying aura seemed to be able to destroy all existences. Jun Haoyan didn't hesitate at all and directly threw out the 3,000 divine spears. The divine spears tore through the void and rushed forward. Instantly the world was filled with killing intent. The powerhouses of the 5 major factions felt as if they were in hell and felt endless coldness. Not good, let's join forces quickly. His divine ability is extremely terrifying. Seeing this, the Immortal Realm powerhouses spoke in horror, and their expressions changed drastically. Even the Immortal Realm powerhouses who wanted to break through the domain felt danger. For a moment, everyone joined forces. All of them felt the terror of this divine ability. They directly took out their treasures and erupted with tyrannical power. And this scene made the spectators in the distance shocked to the extreme. Holy Son of Hao Tian. He was actually so powerful. Everything in front of them was really unimaginable. But all of this was so real. At this moment, the 3,000 underworld deity spears had already pierced through the air. These 3,000 divine spears seemed to have pierced out from hell. They could destroy everything. The 3,018 levels of hell had all kinds of evil spirits howling. It made one's body turn cold. This move. It directly shook the heavens. The bodies of 30 Essence Soul Dharma phase powerhouses split open, and their Essence Souls were destroyed. 7 to 8 Immortal Realm powerhouses retreated, their faces pale. Some of them even had their dantian broken by the divine spears. The entire world was filled with a rain of blood, and the smell of blood surged. It was hard to open one's eyes. This world had completely turned into Azura hell. And everyone realized that. Nearly 200 Essence Soul Dharma phase powerhouses had been crazily slaughtered by Jun Haoyan. A total of 120 of them had been slaughtered. Chapter 202. 70 to 80 Transcendence Realm experts accounted for almost 1/5 of the people present. At this moment they were all severely injured. And all of this was the result of one move from Jun Haoyan. Instantly, everyone present looked at Jun Haoyan in shock. The strength displayed by Great Heaven's Holy Son was no longer something that a prodigy of the younger generation could display. Even the top prodigies of the continent could not compare to Great Heaven's Holy Son. At this moment he could even be ranked as one of the top prodigies in Eastern Wilderness. Everyone looked at Jun Haoyan with a hint of surprise in their eyes. How old was Great Heaven's Holy Son now? He was probably not even 20 years old. Looking at Jun Haoyan's excessively young face, all of them felt as if they were in a dream. Although Great Heaven's Holy Son's current strength was temporarily enhanced by external items. But to be able to display such terrifying strength as an Immortal Longevity Realm expert was enough to shock the world. There was not a single person who wasn't shocked. Holy Son. Holy Son. Holy Son. Seeing this scene, all the disciples of Langya's sacred ground went crazy. They were so excited that their faces were flushed red. All the disciples of Langya looked at Jun Haoyan with fervent admiration. This was the Holy Son of Langya's sacred ground. The Holy Son of Great Heaven that they were protecting. At this moment, a glimmer of hope ignited in the hearts of all the disciples of Langya. This is absolutely impossible. He only used external items to increase his cultivation. How could he maintain it for so long? Despicable. Despicable. At this moment, the experts of the 5 major forces who were still trapped in the domain looked at Jun Haoyan with disbelief in their eyes. They all roared angrily, their words full of fear for Jun Haoyan. Based on Great Heaven's Holy Son's killing speed, he would soon kill everyone present. How dare you? At this moment, a loud voice came from the void where the sacred leaders were fighting. Everyone looked over and saw that the voice came from the sacred leader of Azure Cloud. At this moment, the battle in the void was about to come to an end. Tao Xian was fighting 1 against 5, and the result was self-evident. He was being suppressed by Demon King Jiao and the others. Countless bloody holes appeared on his body, and fresh blood gushed out of them. At this rate, Dao Yin wouldn't be able to hold on for much longer. He would soon perish in the hands of Demon King Jiao, Monarch Fairy Fox, and the others. The sacred leader of the sacred leaders of Azure Cloud and sacred leader of Azure Cloud. At present, the battle situation above was already thoroughly stabilized. Dao Profound was already thoroughly suppressed. They were no longer needed in the battle. At this moment, the two sacred leaders looked directly at Jun Haotian. Looking at the heavy casualties of the 5 major forces, the two of them looked at Jun Haotian with eyes filled with killing intent. Many of these Transcendence Realm and Immortal Realm experts were from the 3 sacred grounds of Eastern Wilderness. Now, some of them had died in the hands of Jun Haotian. This was a heavy loss for the sacred grounds. All of you back off. The sacred leader of Azure Cloud and sacred leader of Azure Cloud stepped forward and stood in front of Jun Haotian. The two of them were going to attack Jun Haotian directly. Seeing this scene, countless people were instantly dumbfounded. They were so shocked that they were numb. Their eyes were glazed over. The sacred leaders were going to attack the Holy Son of Great Heaven. This scene caused everyone present to feel disbelief. Could the Holy Son of Great Heaven survive against 2 sacred leaders? Although the Holy Son of Great Heaven had displayed unparalleled strength, he had relied on external items to forcefully increase his strength. Furthermore, the 2 holy lords that he was facing right now were famous figures in the continent 1,000 years ago. Regardless of talent or aptitude, they were top-notch. Normally, Holy Lord level characters would only fight against other Holy Lords. They would not even bother to attack ordinary people. But now, the 2 sacred leaders had chosen to attack the Holy Son of Great Heaven, a disciple of Langya. What? Are the 2 seniors bullying the weak? Jun Haotian chuckled as he looked at the sacred leader of Azure Cloud and sacred leader of Great Heaven. Even in the face of such a peerless character, Jun Haotian was still as calm as ever. He did not show any signs of fear. In fact, Jun Haotian also wanted to know if he could fight against the top figures of Eastern Wilderness after reaching the Longevity Realm. At the same time, he also wanted to know how much power he could unleash. Previously, Jun Haotian had already displayed his terrifying strength when he faced the experts of the 5 sacred grounds. However, that strength was not his full strength. You are indeed as arrogant as the rumors say. Today you have killed so many experts of our sacred grounds. I will not let you live. You are so bloodthirsty. It seems like you have really fallen into the demon Dao. The sacred leader of Azure Cloud and sacred leader of Great Heaven said as they looked at the calm Jun Haotian. Although the strength that Jun Haotian had displayed had shocked the 2 of them. But that was it. They had already thought that Jun Haotian's strength was not a threat to them. As sacred leaders of sacred grounds, they were peerless existences in the eternal realm. Such strength, even in the Trichiliocosm, was incomparably powerful. Perhaps they were slightly weaker than those ancient experts, but it was enough for them to roam the 3,000 worlds. With Jun Haotian's status, it was already a great honor for the 2 of them to attack him. Hehe, if you want to kill me, just do it. You don't have to slander me. Hearing their words, a smile appeared on Jun Haotian's face. However, if you want to kill me, that will depend on how strong you are. Facing 2 holy lords, Jun Haotian's face was still as calm as ever, without a care in the world. Perhaps, in the eyes of others, Jun Haotian was on the same level as the sacred leader of Great Heaven. He had truly reached a level where he could sit on the same level as the Holy Master. How arrogant! The tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. This saying will be proven on you. The sacred leader of Azure Cloud stared at Jun Haotian and sneered. As soon as he said that, the sacred leader of Azure Cloud attacked. The shadows of 2 sacred cauldrons slowly appeared in his hands. They were exactly the same as the sacred weapon, the sacred leader of Azure Cloud Universe Creation Cauldron. Obviously, this was a superpower that was close to the Emperor's skill. In the next instant, the sacred leader of Azure Cloud took a step forward and a vast force swept out. It was extremely terrifying. In an instant, the sacred leader of Azure Cloud arrived in front of Jun Haotian and slammed the sacred cauldron in his hands. Seeing this, Jun Haotian did not hesitate. Behind him, the shadows of the 12 demon gods gradually appeared. Originally, the demon god technique was only at the supreme superpower level. It was not a match for the Emperor's skill in the sacred leader of Azure Cloud's hands. However, Jun Haotian activated the battle secret word and added it to the superpower. This made the Celestial Fiend Celestial technique even more powerful than a Supreme Emperor technique. In the next instant, the 2 terrifying attacks collided. A monstrous force exploded in the void as if it was going to tear the entire world apart. Even the clouds in the void were shattered. Under the impact of this force, Jun Haoyin took a few steps back. Seeing this, Jun Haoyin frowned and said, "Even if I have reached the longevity realm, there is still a gap between me and the sacred leader of Azure Cloud Universe." After all, the sacred leader of Azure Cloud Universe was in the eternal realm. Just by lifting his hand he could release a terrifying force. With such strength, even Jun Haoyin was no match for him. After all, there was still a huge gap between the longevity realm and the creation realm. Moreover, Jun Haoyin had relied on external items to reach the longevity realm. Opposite him, the sacred leader of Azure Cloud Universe looked down at Jun Haoyin and said, "This is just the beginning. Holy son of Haoyin, I have to say that your talent is indeed unparalleled in the world. However, if you think you can be arrogant because of your talent, then you are gravely mistaken. This world is much more powerful than you can imagine." As the two of them collided, the sacred leader of Azure Cloud Universe did not move an inch as he looked at Jun Haoyin calmly. At this moment he was acting high and mighty in front of Jun Haoyin. It was as if it was already a great blessing for Jun Haoyin to be able to fight with him. If Lin Fan could die in his hands, then it would be an even greater honor. At the side, the sacred leader of all heaven crossed his arms as he stood in the air and watched the show. Just by standing there he had already intimidated Jun Haoyin. In the face of what the sacred leader of Azure Cloud Universe had said, Jun Haoyin was not moved at all as he said sarcastically, "I didn't expect that as a sacred leader, you would still have so much nonsense to say." In the next moment he walked out slowly as he activated the esoteric word. Bus. Suddenly, tenfold combat strength was added to his physical body. The golden blood qi danced in the air and turned into a river that surged continuously. An extremely powerful force instantly swept out in all directions. The sound of blood qi boiling instantly resounded across thousands of miles. Countless people at the scene heard a loud boom. At this moment, Jun Haoyin directly attacked. Just like before, Jun Haoyin simply threw out a punch. Boom. In the next moment, the entire area shook. Jun Haoyin's punch carried the offensive power of the unparalleled combat strength. On the fist print, it carried tenfold combat strength. Seeing this, the sacred leader of Azure Cloud frowned slightly. His true origin went berserk and the divine cauldron in his hand suddenly exploded with an even more powerful aura. In an instant, the two of them started fighting again. Jun Haoyin used his full strength as an immortal long-life realm cultivator to face the sacred leader of Azure Cloud Universe, who was an immortal creator realm cultivator. In a battle of this level there were many changes in an instant. In just a breath's time they could exchange a few hundred blows. The extremely terrifying power that exploded from the two of them made some immortal realm experts wary. At this moment, Jun Haoyin's unparalleled strength was actually on par with the sacred leader of Azure Cloud Universe. Especially with the help of the esoteric word and the esoteric word. In addition, his terrifying physical body could ignore most of the superpowers. After a while, he actually suppressed the sacred leader of Azure Cloud Universe. How is this possible? Seeing this scene, the sacred leader of all heaven was instantly shocked. He was well aware of the sacred leader of Azure Cloud Universe's strength. The strength of a level 7 immortal creator realm cultivator was absolutely terrifying. But now, such strength was actually suppressed by the holy son of Hao Tian. He simply couldn't believe it. Boom. At this moment, the true origin in Jun Haoyin's body transformed and he directly threw a punch at the sacred leader of Azure Cloud Universe. In an instant, the entire Langya sacred ground began to tremble. It was as though a terrifying earthquake had occurred. The ground that was originally protected couldn't withstand such power and began to crack. As for the sacred leader of Azure Cloud Universe, he directly took the hit from Jun Haoyin's punch. Jun Haoyin's punch landed directly on his body. In an instant, the sacred leader of Azure Cloud Universe's shoulder was directly smashed. In an instant, blood gushed out. The sacred leader's blood splattered from the void. This scene was a ghastly sight. At this moment, everyone was shocked to the extreme. The holy son of Hao Tian injured the sacred leader of a sacred ground? This kind of strength was just too terrifying. But it was at this moment. Jun Haoyin suddenly felt a chill in his body. At the same time, a strong sense of crisis lingered in his heart. Just at this moment, the holy master of all heaven wielded his spear and charged towards Jun Haoyin with an earth-shattering aura. Seeing this scene, countless people immediately cried out in alarm. How dare a holy lord-level figure sneak attack the holy son of clear heaven? In particular, the holy master of all heaven's move was filled with killing intent. That was it. He took out a terrifying golden spear and blasted it out, wanting to pierce through Jun Haotian. Just when countless people thought that Jun Haotian was going to suffer a great calamity. Jun Haotian's expression changed, and the furnace in his body rotated. At this moment he directly used a divine ability. The Shenhuang Gate. Chapter 2. The Blood of the Holy Lord. At this moment, the heaven and earth furnace in Jun Haotian's body vibrated gently. On top of the furnace, various divine abilities flashed. Rays of divine light burst out, dazzling and eye-catching. In the next moment, above Jun Haotian's head, a door that was formed by the Shenhuang Qi slowly appeared. When the door appeared, an inexplicable power filled Jun Haotian's body. It made his body glow as if he was about to be deified. It was also at this moment that the radiance covered every corner of his body, including his pores and hair. At this moment, Jun Haotian seemed to be wearing a feather coat formed by the Shenhuang Qi. He looked otherworldly and powerful. However, none of this could be seen by outsiders. Even the Shenhuang Gate that was suspended above Jun Haotian's head could not be seen by others. At this moment, the entire void was shrouded by a golden divine light. The golden divine light was emitted by a divine spear. At this moment, this divine spear was bursting with boundless killing intent, causing one's heart to tremble. Everyone could only see the outline of the divine spear. Even some of the Transcendence Realm existences could not see the divine spear clearly. The divine spear was emitting an extremely sharp killing intent. This caused everyone's hair to stand on end. Some cultivators with low cultivations had even begun to tremble. In everyone's eyes, the golden giant spear arrived in front of Jun Haotian in an instant. Seeing this scene, countless people cried out in surprise. This was the full blow of the Holy Lord of all heaven. Not to mention Jun Haotian, even an immortal creator realm expert would be pierced through. This time, I'm afraid the Holy Son of Haotian will fall. Sai, such a genius. What a pity. With two Holy Lords attacking, even if the Holy Son of Haotian breaks through again, it will be useless. The Holy Son of Haotian can die in peace now that two Holy Lords are attacking him. Everyone looked at this scene with complicated expressions. Then, the terrifying attack of the Holy Lord of all heaven directly pierced through Jun Haotian's body. Seeing this scene, everyone felt a chill in their hearts. It was as if their bodies had been pierced through as well. When the disciples of the Langya sacred ground saw this scene, their hearts sank to the bottom of the valley. In their opinion, Jun Haotian's strength was already strong enough. He was an invincible existence. Even so, to block the attack of a Holy Lord was undoubtedly more difficult than ascending to the heavens. Boom. In the next moment, the golden divine spear pierced through the void and directly hit Jun Haotian's body. At this moment, in everyone's eyes, Jun Haotian's body was pierced through. Everything that had happened just now had happened in an instant. At this moment, the Azure Cloud sacred leader and the Holy Lord of all heaven stood side by side in the void once again. They looked at Jun Haotian, who had been pierced through by the divine spear, with disdain in their eyes. They believed that even if Jun Haotian did not die from the previous attack, he would be severely injured. Ah, Holy Son of Haotian, this is the result of going against us. The Holy Lord of all heaven looked at Jun Haotian and said slowly. He did not feel ashamed of his sudden attack at all. This was because this was a battle. It was ever-changing. In a battle of life and death, how many people would care if you fought openly? Something's not right. At this moment, the Azure Cloud sacred leader looked at Jun Haotian and suddenly realized something was wrong. At this moment, the Holy Lord of all heaven also realized that something was wrong. This was because he realized that after his divine spear pierced through Jun Haotian's body, there was not a single trace of blood. There was not a trace of blood in the air either. In fact, he did not even see Jun Haotian's body that had been pierced through. Everything was the same as before. There was no change at all. Haha, as a Holy Lord, you actually did such a despicable thing. You are really a laughingstock. At this moment, a green wolf's voice slowly sounded behind everyone. Soon after, everyone saw Jun Haotian slowly walking out from within the golden light. His purple robes were untainted by even a speck of dust. Not to mention that he was severely injured, Jun Haotian's aura was not in disorder at all. Was everything that had just happened an illusion? At this moment, this thought appeared in everyone's mind. How is this possible? You took a hit from my frightening Emperor World Devastator spear. How is it possible that you are completely fine? The Holy Lord of all heaven looked as though he had seen a ghost when he saw that Jun Haotian was completely unharmed. His eyes were filled with disbelief. He was very clear about the power of his attack just now. However, Jun Haotian was completely fine at this moment. How could the Holy Lord of all heaven accept the scene before him? The other spectators were all shocked. They could not believe what they had just seen. However, at this moment, Jun Haoyin moved once again. He took a step forward. His true origin vibrated and turned into hundreds of true origin heavenly dragons. At this moment, Jun Haoyin was like a supreme being stepping on a heavenly dragon. It was terrifying. Even the Holy Lord of all heaven's attack was unscathed. Coupled with his current aura, countless people were terrified. Humph, do you think we are afraid of you? The green cloud Holy Lord and the Holy Lord of all heaven stepped forward together. Their bodies were filled with blazing light. Without any superfluous movements, they immediately attacked and used all sorts of powerful and terrifying superpowers. Golden divine spear, golden divine sword, green divine lotus, etc. Dozens of killing superpowers erupted in an instant. It was enough to easily kill an undying realm expert. Even an undying world king would frown and retreat slightly. However, at this moment, Jun Haoyin was fearless. He walked forward slowly. With the black and yellow door above his head, he stood there and allowed the divine spear, divine sword, and divine lotus to crash into his body. To think that Jun Haoyin would be able to withstand these incomparably horrifying supreme mystic skills with ease. It was as if they had no effect at all. It was as if they had hit the air. Such a scene simply frightened the two holy lords. It made them feel even more terrified and fearful. Even Demon King Jiao and the others who were fighting noticed this scene. They were extremely shocked. Could this be the legendary invulnerability? How can he have such a terrifying superpower? Even an undying creator realm existence can't do anything to the Holy Son of Hao Tian. How monstrous is the Holy Son of Hao Tian? Guys, look! The Holy Son of Hao Tian is attacking again. Someone exclaimed and shouted loudly, attracting everyone's attention once again. It was also at this moment that Jun Haoyin formed a fist seal. The light around his body was dazzling and dazzling. He had turned into the monarch of heaven and earth. With a vast power, he faced the two holy lords with a punch. The two holy lords, who were still in shock, brazenly counterattacked. However, the punch that contained the 9 secrets of the Supreme Being was resplendent and terrifying. This punch poured down on the two holy lords' bodies. The two holy lords seemed to have suffered a heavy blow. They retreated hundreds of meters. Their faces were pale and they couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Everyone's body trembled. They couldn't believe the scene in front of them. A punch stained two holy lords with blood. Chapter 203. Jun Haoyin's domineering attitude shocked everyone present. One had to know that he had just beaten up 2 sacred lords until they were vomiting blood. Every saint lord must also be a peerless genius. Perhaps 1,000 years ago, they were already influential figures in the Wuxian continent. They were definitely powerful and truly stood at the peak of the eastern wilderness. But what about Hao Tian's holy son? He was just a young genius who had risen recently. At most, he could be considered the strongest genius of the younger generation. But such an existence had actually caused 2 peerless sacred lords to suffer heavy injuries and even dyed the sky red with their blood. At such a young age, he had already achieved such glorious results. It was enough to shock the entire Wuxian continent. With Hao Tian's holy son's strength, he was truly worthy of the title of a peerless expert on the continent. Everyone who saw this scene felt as if they were in a dream. However, the scene before his eyes was so real. At that moment, Jun Haoyin was standing in the sky. His purple robes fluttered in the wind. His gaze was as sharp as a knife, and he exuded a domineering aura. The 18 sacred lords' great universal boundless relic was indeed powerful. It had allowed him to reach the peak of the immortal longevity realm. According to Jun Haoyin's estimation, he could still maintain the immortal longevity realm for 18 more incense sticks of time. Jun Haoyin couldn't help but sigh in his heart. The small Lane temple's most precious treasure was indeed a good item. Of course, Jun Haoyin wasn't being arrogant right now. He also knew that this power didn't belong to him. His true strength was at the peak of the 2nd level of the Transcendence realm. With his true strength, he wasn't able to fight against a sacred lord. If he successfully resolved this crisis this time, the small Lane temple's contribution would be the greatest. All of this could only be settled after this battle ended. At that thought, Jun Haoyin slowly raised his head. His eyes shone with a strange light, and an extremely sharp aura appeared on his body. So this is the strength of a sacred lord. It seems like this is all there is to it? Jun Haoyin's lips curled into a smile. He ignored the anger on the 2 holy lords' faces and attacked again. Jun Haoyin's move was still the same as before, blasting out a fierce punch. Humph! Do you really think that you can defeat us by relying on external items? That's simply wishful thinking. Holy Son of Hao Yin, you are still too inexperienced. The real battle has only just begun. Upon hearing Jun Hao Yin's mocking words, the Azure Cloud Sacred Leader and the All-Heaven Sacred Leader were enraged. As Holy Lords, they had actually been defeated by a young man. If news of this spread out, how could they still have the face to be Holy Lords? Although there is a saying that the student surpasses the master. But if it really happened to them, no one wanted to see it happen. As the most powerful cultivators in the Eastern Wilderness, they would never allow themselves to be defeated by a young boy. Moreover, they believed that Jun Hao Yin's current strength had been boosted by external items. Soon it would disappear. Next, they had to use all their strength to suppress Jun Hao Yin. Only then could they regain some of their dignity as Holy Lords. Subsequently, the Azure Cloud Sacred Leader and the All-Heaven Sacred Leader did not hesitate at all. In order to regain their dignity, they joined forces and executed a terrifying mystique. After all, the two Holy Lords were immortal realm cultivators. They could change the heavens and earth with just a lift of their hands. Under the combined efforts of the two Holy Lords, the entire heavens and earth changed. Even the wind and clouds changed color. In the next instant, Jun Hao Yin stood next to the two of them. In an instant, the three of them had already exchanged more than 1,000 blows. The two Holy Lords were indeed the most powerful cultivators in the Eastern Wilderness. When they joined forces, they were even more terrifying. At this moment, the two of them had actually suppressed Jun Hao Yin. The Azure Cloud Sacred Leader and the All-Heaven Sacred Leader did not hold back at all. Every move they made was fatal. They wanted to use Jun Hao Yin's name to wash away their humiliation. Boom, boom, boom. The battle between the three of them was like a chaotic battle between ferocious beasts. It was earth-shattering and earth-shattering. Jun Hao Yin's fists were like a primordial beast. Every time he punched out, the heaven and earth essence chi would collapse. If it were not for the fact that the Langya sacred ground was under him and was protected by the array, it would have collapsed. The combination of the all-secret word and the battle-secret word caused the door of heaven and earth to activate from time to time. The spear of underworld would also shoot out from time to time. In short, every time Jun Hao Yin attacked, the two Holy Lords would tremble in fear. Such a method of attack was simply too violent. If they were not careful, they could be severely injured. At this moment, Jun Hao Yin directly circulated the battle-secret character with a thought. In an instant, 10 times the combat strength exploded in Jun Hao Yin's body. At the same time, there were 18 supremacies chanting scriptures behind Jun Hao Yin. There were also 12 demon gods supporting him. After a while, Jun Hao Yin finally found a flaw in the Green Cloud Saint Lord's defense and threw a punch at him. Boom. Jun Hao Yin suddenly attacked the Azure Cloud Sacred Leader's flaw. Naturally, the Azure Cloud Sacred Leader could not dodge in time. In the end, Jun Hao Yin's horrifying punch landed on the Azure Cloud Sacred Leader's shoulder. Boom. In the next moment, the Azure Cloud Sacred Leader's shoulder exploded. His black hair fell to the ground as he retreated and spat out mouthfuls of blood. At this moment, the Azure Cloud Sacred Leader's hair was disheveled and he was in a sorry state. He did not look like a sacred leader at all. His entire body crashed into the ground, creating a huge crater in the ground. After using the battle secret word, Jun Hao Yin had defeated the Azure Cloud Sacred Leader in an instant. No wonder it was one of the 9 supreme esoteric words. The battle secret word was unparalleled. The strength of the attack was simply shocking. After defeating the Azure Cloud Sacred Leader, Jun Hao Yin slowly turned his attention to the All-Heaven Sacred Leader. Previously, the Azure Cloud Sacred Leader and the All-Heaven Sacred Leader had worked together to suppress Jun Hao Yin. But now that the Azure Cloud Sacred Leader was injured, he had to fight against Jun Hao Yin alone. Seeing this, the All-Heaven Sacred Leader suddenly felt immense pressure. He looked at Jun Hao Yin and was puzzled. The Holy Sun had broken through with the help of external items. Why hadn't he used up all his energy yet? He was also puzzled. His cultivation level was higher than Jun Hao Yin's. Why was his strength so much weaker than his? What the All-Heaven Sacred Leader did not know was that all this was caused by Jun Hao Yin's strength of the Hell-Crushing Divine Elephant. After cultivating the strength of the Hell-Crushing Divine Elephant, which was a supreme cultivation technique. Whether it was in terms of strength or true essence, Jun Hao Yin was an unparalleled existence. Moreover, Jun Hao Yin had the battle secret word from the 9 supreme esoteric words. This power could not be described with the word terrifying. Feeling Jun Hao Yin's terrifying aura, the All-Heaven Sacred Leader felt as though he was in an endless hell and would be devoured in the next moment. Rumble. In the next moment, Jun Haotian finally found the All-Heaven Sacred Leader's weakness again. In the end, Jun Haotian did not hesitate and punched the All-Heaven Sacred Leader's chest. Poof. In the next moment, the All-Heaven Sacred Leader was sent flying. His chest exploded and his flesh and blood splattered everywhere. At this moment he could not even resist. At this point, the two sacred leaders had been defeated by Jun Haotian. Both of them were severely injured and could not use their peak strength. Countless people were dumbfounded when they saw Jun Haotian turn into a god of war. No matter what happened in the Langya sacred ground, Jun Haotian's name would spread across the martial god continent and even the surrounding continents. The whole world would hear of his name. At this moment, Jun Haotian's body was like an ancient sacred mountain. He stood still and was about to follow up with another attack. Dong. However, at this moment, a loud explosion attracted his attention. Tao Xian was sent flying back and collapsed in the Langya sacred ground. He had suffered a terrifying injury. At the same time, a powerful aura erupted from the extraterritorial region. The Langya mountain and river painting fell and retracted its divine power. It stood above the sacred ground and could not rush into the void again. Apparently, it was suppressed by the two supreme weapons. Just like Tao Xian, the outcome of the battle had been decided. The supreme weapons were suppressed and the sacred leader was defeated. Even though Jun Haotian was extremely terrifying in everyone's eyes, his ability was still limited. There were too many experts when the five forces joined forces. It was not something a single sacred ground could deal with. When the surrounding people saw this, they sighed slightly. Whether it was Tao Xian or Jun Haotian, their strength was beyond everyone's imagination. However, they were facing the five top forces. It was impossible for one person to defy the heavens. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Facing the attack of the five top forces, this was the inevitable outcome. No one could stop them. Not even the powerful Holy Lord of Langya, Tao Xian, or the current Holy Son of Haotian. One had to know that they were facing the five top forces of the martial god continent. There were peerless experts like them in the sacred ground. This great battle was, in fact, a battle between experts. If they wanted to win, they had to defeat the experts of the other side. Otherwise, even if they sacrificed a lot in this battle, it would be useless. If Tao Xian and Haotian, Holy Son of Haotian, were defeated, there would be no chance of winning this battle. Haha, Haotian, Holy Son of Haotian, so what if you win? Today, Langya sacred ground will be destroyed. At this moment, the Qingyun sacred leader and Luotian sacred leader appeared again and looked at Jun Haotian with a cold smile. Although they were seriously injured, it was not fatal. At this moment, they only wanted to see Jun Haotian fall. Only then could they wash away the humiliation they had suffered. For a mere junior to be able to achieve such a feat, it has indeed caused us to raise our eyebrows. However, it ends here. At this moment, Demon King Jiao slowly walked out of the void. Demon King Jiao was still as domineering as before. He did not seem to be in a sorry state after the battle. Although Tao Xian was powerful, it was already rare for him to be able to last so long in the hands of several sacred leaders. Demon King Jiao and he were both in the immortal realm. It was impossible for Tao Xian to injure Demon King Jiao while being surrounded by several people. This was also the reason why Demon King Jiao was so calm. If the two of them were to fight alone, Tao Xian would definitely not be defeated so easily, and Demon King Jiao would not be so relaxed. Unfortunately, Langya's sacred ground was facing the combined attack of five major forces at this moment. It was simply unrealistic for them to fight alone. Even if the five major forces had joined forces, they had already planned to use their strongest force to completely destroy Langya's sacred ground. Haha, you're just bullying me with numbers? If you have the guts, fight me alone. I, the Holy Son, will defeat all of you one by one. Hearing this, Jun Haotian sneered and mocked. At this moment he was standing beside Tao Xian. Although he was not a sacred leader yet, the aura he exuded was not weaker than the Qingyun sacred leader and other sacred leaders. He truly had the bearing of an expert. When Demon King Jiao heard Jun Haotian's words, he immediately smiled. Eliminating demons and protecting justice is a principle that everyone upholds. Why should we fight alone against those who have fallen into the demonic path and harbored demons? At this moment, the Alcade sacred leader spoke slowly. He was completely dismissive of Jun Haotian's words. The winner was the king and the loser was the bandit. Merits and demerits had always been determined by the winner. This had been an iron law since ancient times. Today, under their joint forces, Langya's sacred ground was definitely going to be destroyed. From now on, the facts of today would be determined by them. And Langya's sacred ground would become a thing of the past. Future generations would talk about it and say that it was just a sect that had mistakenly fallen into the demonic path. Boom. It was also at this moment that the void shook, and two vast auras descended, suppressing Langya's sacred ground. They were the Alkade Cauldron and the Qingyun divine furnace of creation. They suppressed the void and the entire world. If Langya's mountain and river painting was not still emitting its power, Langya's sacred ground's array would have been shattered. But obviously this state could not be maintained for long. At this moment Langya's mountain and river painting was already suppressed. Sooner or later, it would not be able to protect Langya's sacred ground. But once it lost the protection of the supreme weapon, the five forces could directly invade and attack Langya's sacred ground with all their might. At that time, Langya's sacred ground would have a hard time resisting. And at that time, the fate of Langya's sacred ground would be decided. No matter what you say today, Langya's sacred ground will not be captured without a fight. At this moment, Tao Xian, who was standing beside Jun Haoyan, spoke. At this moment, although he was severely injured, his life was not in danger. In fact, at Tao Xian's level, his body was no longer ordinary. After reaching the immortal realm, the human body had been refined and the state of life had undergone a qualitative change. Just like the battle between Jun Haoyan and the two holy masters earlier. Even if Jun Haoyan could defeat the two holy masters, he would not be able to defeat them. But if he wanted to kill the two holy masters, it would be difficult for him to do so. The higher the level, the stronger the power. This was the truth. Looks like Langya's sacred ground is going to be removed from the 7 great sacred grounds today. Tao Xian, do you think you can stop us with just one supreme weapon? That's right. Today, in order to destroy Langya's sacred ground, we have come prepared. Alkade Holy Master and the others spoke one after another. They looked at Tao Xian and Jun Haoyan and sneered. Although at this moment they could be considered to have suffered heavy casualties. But the 5 forces combined could still suppress Langya's sacred ground. Can you stop talking nonsense? If you want to fight, just fight. Don't bark here. Seeing Alkade Holy Master and the others chattering, Jun Haoyan was getting impatient and said directly. Behind him, the elders and disciples of the Langya sacred ground looked determined. They were ready to fight to the death and were ready for a great battle. Even though they were facing the crisis of being destroyed, no one ran away. Seeing this scene, Jun Haoyan was a little touched. If he did not identify with Tai's sacred ground in the past, it was completely different now. In order to protect him, everyone in the sacred ground had paid a high price. And he, Jun Haoyan, would not disappoint the people present. Okay, let's start. Alkade Holy Master took a step forward and True Origin surrounded him. Behind him, Azure Cloud Holy Master did the same. Rumble. They injected a powerful force into the supreme artifact to revive it once again. This time, they had to use the 2 supreme weapons to restrain Langya's mountain river painting. Only in this way could they kill without thinking about the consequences. Bus, bus, bus. At this moment, Langya's mountain river painting burst out with dazzling light. The mountains and rivers in it were as if they were about to be deified. The dazzling light swept across the entire area and resisted the 2 supreme weapons. No one knew how much pressure the supreme weapon of Langya's sacred ground was under to resist the supreme weapons of the 2 sacred grounds. Seeing this, Demon King Jiao frowned slightly. The supreme weapons were indeed powerful, although they were not as strong. But it was very difficult to completely suppress a supreme weapon. It was very difficult for both supreme weapons to do so. At this moment, Holy Master All Heaven walked out with a smile on his face. He looked high-spirited. But whether it was the people watching from afar or the disciples and elders of Langya's sacred ground, they all felt a terrifying pressure. Boom, boom, boom. At this moment, a huge war drum appeared behind Holy Master All Heaven. It was engraved with dragons and phoenixes and it was constantly rumbling. It was as if a supreme existence was beating the war drum. Just hearing the sound made one's blood boil. It was as if it was going to burst out of one's body. It was the supreme weapon of All Heaven's sacred ground, the All Heaven War Soul Drum. This was a terrifying supreme weapon. If a supreme weapon were to beat it, the sound could even be transmitted to other small worlds. It was extremely terrifying. At this moment, the 3 supreme weapons appeared and emitted a terrifying pressure that could crush one's soul. At this moment, Langya's mountain river painting finally could not hold on any longer. This was the pressure of 3 supreme weapons. Everyone was sighing in sorrow. 3 supreme being artifacts who could resist. The destruction of Langya's sacred ground was a foregone conclusion. Chapter 204. Seeing this scene, everyone sighed in their hearts. Could it be that the holy land of Langya, which had been passed down for hundreds of thousands of years, was really going to be destroyed today? In this battle, no one had expected that the 5 major forces would actually use 3 supreme artifacts. It could be said that the 5 major forces had put in a lot of effort this time. They were even more determined to destroy the holy land of Langya. After watching today's battle and witnessing Great Heaven's Holy Sun's strength, the powerhouses somewhat understood the 5 major forces' purpose of doing this. If it was based on Great Heaven's previous achievements, killing the Holy Sun of the 3 major holy lands, killing Prince Jiao and the Fox Prince. If it was just based on these, although Great Heaven's Holy Sun's talent was unparalleled and could be called the strongest of the heavenly talents. If it was just this, perhaps Demon King Jiao and the others would not be so determined to kill Great Heaven's Holy Sun. However, today's battle forced the 5 major forces to kill Great Heaven's Holy Sun. Great Heaven's Holy Sun had only cultivated for a short period of time, but he had already reached the level where he could fight 2 holy lords. If he was given a few more days to grow stronger, he might not even put holy master-level existences in his eyes. Now, after this battle, Langya and the 5 major forces were already in a situation where only one of them would die. There was no way to resolve it. If they did not kill Great Heaven's Holy Sun today and let him escape, when he grew stronger in the future, no one in the 5 major forces would be his match. Therefore, the 5 major forces' holy lords had already made up their minds. In this battle, they had to kill Great Heaven's Holy Sun, this monster. Other than that, there was no other way. In this battle, the stronger Great Heaven's Holy Sun was, the more monstrous he was. Then, the 5 major forces' desire to kill him would be even stronger. Their desire to kill Great Heaven's Holy Sun would be even more determined. Otherwise, they would not have spent so many resources to use 3 supreme artifacts. At this moment, the 3 supreme artifacts were emitting a destructive aura as they floated in the void. The soul-stirring aura emanating from it was enough to annihilate all living beings. With the 3 supreme weapons working together, Langya's mountain and river diagram had no way of resisting. It was suppressed by the 3 supreme weapons. Now, the Langya mountain and river diagram was suppressed and could not protect the Langya sacred land. Faced with such a situation, the 5 major forces could immediately charge into the Langya sacred ground. Buzz. At this moment, the void rumbled once again. It was the sound of Langya's mountain and river diagram. It sounded like the wailing of a supreme weapon. It looked extremely tragic, just like the desperate situation that the Langya sacred land was facing. This was the supreme weapon's final cry of sorrow. No one could save it. Boom. At this moment, Demon King Jiao and the others slowly took a step forward. Now that the Langya mountain and river diagram had lost its effect, they finally decided to go all out and kill all the disciples of the Langya Holy Land. Tao Xian, I've already given you 3 chances. You're the one who didn't cherish them. Today, whether it's the so-called Langya sacred land or the so-called Holy Sun of Haotian, they'll all be destroyed in our hands. Now, even your supreme weapons are being suppressed. Let's see who can save you. Today, Langya's sacred land will perish. Demon King Jiao and the others looked at the Langya sacred land with extremely cold eyes. They looked at the Langya disciples as if they were looking at a bunch of dead people. Subsequently, the Azure Cloud sacred leader, the Alcade sacred leader, and the All-Heaven sacred leader channeled their true yuan into the supreme weapons again. This time, they wanted to use the power of the 3 supreme weapons to completely suppress the Langya mountain and river diagram. In the next moment, a monstrous aura swept across the entire Langya sacred land. Under this aura, the entire Langya sacred land was affected. Even an immortal like the Supreme Elder was trembling. The aura that the 3 supreme weapons revealed at the same time was too terrifying. Even the immortal realm powerhouses found it difficult to withstand. At this rate, they would die under this aura before the battle even began. The Langya sacred land couldn't protect you after all. Tao Xian, who was beside Jun Haotian, looked at Jun Haotian with a dejected expression. At this moment, Tao Xian was exuding a lonely aura. As the Holy Lord of Langya, he naturally did not want to see the Langya sacred land destroyed. Moreover, he had never expected that such a day would come. The Langya sacred land would eventually be destroyed by his hands. One had to know that the Langya sacred land had been passed down for a full 100,000 years. But even so, Tao Xian did not utter a single word of dissatisfaction towards Jun Haotian from beginning to end. In his heart, since the day Jun Haoyin took over the position of the Holy Son of Langya, the Langya sacred land had Yiwu to protect him. As the Holy Son of Langya, they had to protect him to the end, no matter what happened. This was the principle that Tao Xian had always adhered to in his heart. He had never regretted the outcome of today's battle. Holy Lord. At this moment, Jun Haoyin's voice rang in Tao Xian's ears. In the face of such a dangerous situation, Jun Haoyin's face was still calm, without a trace of fear. Tao Xian raised his head and looked at Jun Haoyin, but he was slightly stunned. At this moment, Jun Haoyin was still as elegant as before. The aura of the supreme weapon that swept across the void did not seem to have any effect on him. His body was still as straight as a pencil, and he did not bend under the pressure of the supreme weapon. In the face of Tao Xian's gaze, Jun Haoyin's eyes were extremely calm, like an ancient well. With his hands behind his back, he said slowly, "The Langya sacred land will not be destroyed today, and it will not be destroyed in the future. These small fries do not have the ability to destroy the Langya sacred land." Under the void, Jun Haoyin still made his arrogant declaration. However, when Jun Haoyin said this, not only Tao Xian was puzzled, but even the spectators were puzzled. At this point, what kind of trump card did the Holy Son of Hao Tian have that he dared to make such an arrogant statement? In the next moment, the Holy Son of Hao Tian slowly took a step forward in front of everyone's eyes. He looked at the three supreme weapons floating in the void without a trace of nervousness, and he was not affected in the slightest. It was also at this moment that the void trembled, and the sky changed color again. Countless people only felt an incomparably cold aura suddenly sweep out from Jun Haoyin's body. That was a supreme aura, a terrifying pressure that could crush everything. Demon King Jiao and the others were slightly shocked. They immediately opened their eyes and looked down. At the same time, Jun Haoyin once again received the attention of countless people. Everyone saw him standing in the air. He was indomitable, standing between the sky and the earth, between his eyebrows. A simple and unadorned immortal bell slowly appeared and enlarged, emitting beams of resplendent light. It suddenly appeared just like that, emitting an aura that could suppress the world. Dong. It was also at this moment that the ancient immortal bell gently vibrated. Boom. Countless people retreated. The expressions of Demon King Jiao and the others changed drastically as they looked at the bell. The aura it emitted was incomparably terrifying. It had the power to suppress the 9 underworlds and attack the 9 heavens. Especially the endless divine light that illuminated the boundless sky. All kinds of mysterious runes were engraved on the immortal bell, and strands of vast divine might were constantly hanging down. After it appeared, the entire void and land underwent a huge change. Even the array formation below the Langya sacred ground began to riot. The 3 supreme weapons of the 5 great factions also emitted endless divine light. They actually stopped suppressing the Langya mountain and river diagram and fought against the immortal bell. This was because the 3 supreme weapons had already sensed that this immortal bell was going to destroy them. At this moment, the immortal bell shot out rays of divine light, as if it was the most terrifying existence in the world. It seemed to have appeared from the long river of time, illuminating the ancient times. Every ray of divine light was incomparably blazing. Everyone was shocked. That vast aura was about to crush the sky. No matter who it was, they would wail in their hearts after sensing this aura. That inexplicable aura swept through millions of miles of rivers and mountains. The brilliant heavenly might shook. It actually did not retreat in the face of the 3 great emperor weapons. This is actually a supreme weapon. How could the Holy Son of Haoyin have a supreme weapon? That's not right. Why do I feel that this sovereign artifact is extremely terrifying? It seems like even the 3 sovereign artifacts are showing signs of submitting to it. Countless people were shaken. Even though they were far away, they could still feel the pressure. This was a truly supreme aura that could suppress all the supreme existences in the 3,000 worlds. The expressions of Demon King Jiao and the others changed drastically as their bodies began to tremble. An immortal bell stood in the void, causing the momentum of the ancient times to collapse. Chapter 2. Shocking at this moment, the immortal bell was floating above Jun Haoyin's head. The aura emitted from it caused everyone present to be unable to breathe. Even Demon King Jiao and the others looked defeated. The might of this immortal bell was simply too strong. It was as if there was a living supreme being expert floating in the void right now. Even the 3 supreme weapons that were in a stalemate with Langya's mountain and river painting had turned around to resist the aura of this immortal bell. At this moment, Demon King Jiao's eyes were filled with disbelief as he looked at the immortal bell in the void. He could not believe what he was seeing. The Holy Son of Hao Yin actually had a supreme weapon in his hands. Moreover, the power of this supreme weapon was even stronger than the 3 supreme weapons on his side. It was definitely a top-grade supreme weapon. At this moment, the Azure Cloud Saint Master and the others could even feel that their 3 supreme weapons were unable to suppress this immortal bell. They were even showing signs of being pushed back by this immortal bell. How is this possible? Where did the Holy Son of Hao Yin get his supreme weapon? There's no such supreme weapon in Wuxian continent. This is simply unbelievable. The Holy Son of Hao Yin actually has a supreme weapon as his trump card. Impossible. This can't be real. How could he have a supreme weapon? Moreover, it's a top-grade supreme weapon. Looking at the scene in the void, the 3 Saint Masters' faces were as pale as paper. They could not believe it. At this moment, the immortal bell above Jun Hao Yin's head was emitting an extremely powerful aura. It definitely had the power to crush everything. No one present could remain unscathed under this supreme weapon. Even the supreme weapons in their hands could not resist the power of this immortal bell. At this moment, Tao Xin's eyes were wide open as he stared at the bell above Jun Hao Yin's head. His eyes were filled with disbelief. He had never expected Jun Hao Yin to be able to take out a supreme weapon. One had to admit that Jun Hao Yin's trump card was simply too shocking. This was a supreme artifact. Only a force like the Holy Land or the dynasty could possess such a terrifying existence. However, at this moment, a supreme weapon had appeared in Jun Hao Yin's hand. Furthermore, this utmost exalted weapon was no ordinary utmost exalted weapon. Just its aura alone was enough to suppress the other 3 supreme weapons. It was simply too terrifying. At this moment, Tao Xin suddenly recalled what Jun Hao Yin had said to him earlier. The Langya Holy Lands would not be destroyed. At this moment, Tao Xin finally understood the meaning of this sentence. That's right, the Langya Holy Lands would definitely not be destroyed today. In fact, Jun Hao Yin had taken out such a frightening utmost exalted weapon. Even if Jun Hao Yin had taken out a supreme weapon that was as powerful as the Langya Mountain and River painting, it would still be able to guarantee that the Langya Holy Lands would not be destroyed. For the top forces of the martial god continent, possessing a supreme weapon was nothing more than a threat. More importantly, it should be an extremely terrifying trump card. Any supreme weapon, even the most ordinary supreme weapon, would be able to suppress everything. Now, Jun Hao Yin had taken out a supreme weapon to truly protect the Langya Holy Lands. Naturally, all the disciples of the Langya Holy Lands had also witnessed this scene. At this moment, they were all shocked and in disbelief. In fact, they were so excited that they could not even speak. When they were facing the most desperate moment, their holy son, the person they were protecting, had taken out a supreme weapon at this critical moment. This was like holding a trump card. With this supreme weapon, they could reverse the current situation at any time. Humph, Holy Son of Hao Yin, so what if you have taken out a supreme weapon? The 3 supreme weapons on our side have not been fully used yet. After the Alcade Holy Leader recovered from his shock, he looked at Jun Hao Yin with great fear. In this battle, in order to completely destroy the Langya Holy Lands, all of them had taken out their trump cards. The 3 holy lands of the eastern wilderness had even taken out their supreme weapons at all costs. This time, the Langya Holy Lands would definitely be destroyed. But now, the Holy Son of Hao Yin had taken out a supreme weapon directly. At this moment, the Holy Son of Hao Yin had completely turned the situation around and saved everything. How could the Alcade Holy Leader and the rest accept this scene? They had paid such a huge price for their comeback, and they had to destroy the Langya Holy Lands. They knew very well that if Jun Hao Yin survived this battle, he would definitely be a genius. When he grew up, with his demonic talent, one day Jun Hao Yin would definitely take revenge on him. Just like the Kunlun Holy Ground and the Linglong Holy Leader back then. The Kunlun Holy Ground did not kill the Linglong Holy Leader when she was still weak, which led to endless troubles in the end. It caused a lot of trouble for the #1 holy land of the human race. For a period of time, they could not even keep their title as the #1 holy land. If not for the fact that the Kunlun Holy Ground was strong enough and had a strong foundation, the Linglong Holy Leader would have overturned it directly. And now, the Holy Son of Hao Yin was like the Linglong Holy Leader of the past. When he grew up, it could be said that there would be endless troubles in the future. Everyone in the 5 forces knew that they could not let the Langya Holy Ground breathe, and they could not let the Holy Son of Hao Yin live. Otherwise, everything would be over. When they thought of this, they no longer hesitated. With Demon King Jiao and the rest taking the lead, they directly took a step forward and attacked one after another. erupting with terrifying true origin without any scruples. They directly poured their true origin into the three supreme weapons, wanting to completely revive them. Now only the supreme weapons could save the current situation. Boom, boom, boom. The void rumbled as the All-Kate Cauldron, Qingyun Universal Furnace of Creation, and Luotian War Soul Drum all surged with vast and unparalleled power. The entire world was in a riot. Even the ground that was protected by the Great Array could not hold on at this moment. It cracked open as if the land was about to sink. The spectators retreated again and again, their eyes filled with horror. They really did not expect the battle to escalate once again. It was truly immortal. From the looks of it, only one of the two forces could survive. The pressure of the three supreme weapons shook the world, and the vast and boundless power swept through the world. The stars and sun in the void were shaking as if the world was about to be destroyed. The three supreme weapons of the five forces had completely awakened at this moment, emitting a terrifying power as if they were about to split the world apart. Thousands of rays of light shot out, enveloping the entire area. The endless mountains and rivers were shaking, and countless creatures were kowtowing. The power of the supreme weapons was enough to shake the world. Not many people could withstand it. It was also at this moment that Tao Shen once again controlled the supreme weapon, wanting to attack. It's fine. One bell is enough to deal with three supreme weapons. At this moment, Jun Haotian spoke, telling Tao Shen not to interfere. The latter hesitated for a moment, but he still chose to believe in Jun Haotian. He immediately retreated and used the Langya mountain and river diagram to envelop the Holy Land to prevent it from being destroyed by the battle. At this moment, countless people only saw the Holy Son of Haotian walking out and slowly standing beside the immortal bell. More than half of the 18 incense sticks' time had passed, and Jun Haotian's immortal longevity realm cultivation had not completely disappeared. Therefore at this moment he calmed his mind and poured all the power in his body into the immortal bell. Awaken. In the next moment, Jun Haotian poured almost 80% of his true essence into it. It was also at this moment that the immortal bell shot out endless light, facing the layers of attacks of the three supreme weapons without fear. In an instant, countless people only felt that the entire world had fallen silent, and time had slowed down. Dong. A bell rang, turning into a circle of light visible to the naked eye, slowly spreading from Jun Haotian's body. At this moment, the sound of the bell rang, shattering billions of stars in the outer realm and resounding throughout the entire universe. At this moment, countless experts in the 3,000 worlds looked up at the void, as if they could hear the sound of the bell. At this moment, the sound of the bell rang through the endless plains, even penetrating the 3,000 worlds and reaching the divine realm. Chapter 205. Dong. The sound of a bell filled with an ancient aura rang out between heaven and earth. Everyone's heart and soul were shaken. Countless people felt a sharp pain in their bodies, and in the next moment, numerous cracks appeared on their bodies. Even the peerless experts in the immortal realm felt their internal organs tremble. Blood flowed out of their mouths and their faces turned pale. The sound of the bell was like the sound of extinction. Everywhere it passed, it left behind a tragic scene. This was a power that they could not resist. This power could easily control their lives. At this moment, the surrounding experts looked at the no-beginning bell in horror under the suppression of the immortal bell. They wanted to leave this place, but they realized in despair that they could not leave under the suppression of the no-beginning bell. This immortal bell was like the law of heaven, imprisoning them in place. Even their primordial spirits and Dharma idols were no exception. They could only endure all of this silently. They could not resist. The culprit behind all of this was not just a single sound of the no-beginning bell. At this moment, Jun Haotian stood beside the no-beginning bell. His purple robe fluttered in the wind, and he looked extraordinary. His gaze was fixed on the void in front of him, and there was a hint of disdain in his eyes. There were the three supreme weapons that Demon King Jiao and the others were controlling. At this moment, the three supreme weapons were emitting endless power. However, when the bell of no beginning began to ring, the entire area was locked down. All the power in the void had been sealed. Looking at this scene, the top experts of the five major forces, including Demon King Jiao and the others, could not help but tremble slightly. Perhaps because they were very close to the no-beginning bell, Demon King Jiao and the others felt the greatest pressure. Even as peerless experts in the immortal realm, they were shocked to find that they could not use the true origin in their bodies. They could only watch as Jun Haotian continued to awaken the no-beginning bell. They felt an extremely vast power on the immortal bell that seemed to be able to suppress everything. Demon King Jiao and the others could vaguely sense that there seemed to be a figure sitting cross-legged on the no-beginning bell in front of them. Just the back of the bell was enough to crush the entire world. Even the martial god continent could not withstand it. The figure sat cross-legged in front of them, suppressing everything. It was as if even the true supreme of this world could not compare to that person's back view. What terrifying existence is this immortal bell exactly? At this moment, such thoughts surfaced in their minds. Being suppressed by the bell of no beginning, they could not do anything else. They could only watch everything unfold in front of them. Even the three supreme being weapons above their heads were suppressed by the might of the bell of no beginning. What shocked Demon King Jiao and the others even more was that, under the power of the bell of no beginning, the three supreme beings were unable to resist at all and were instantly suppressed. This scene caused Demon King Jiao and the others to be in disbelief. No matter how strong this immortal bell was, it was still a supreme weapon. How could it be suppressed so easily? Outside the arena, when everyone saw this scene, they were shocked. At the same time, they wondered if they were dreaming. Originally, the supreme weapon of the Langya sacred ground had been suppressed, and the five forces had planned to destroy the Langya sacred ground in one fell swoop. However, after the holy son of Haotian summoned this immortal bell, the situation was instantly reversed. In fact, he had even ruthlessly suppressed the five major forces. Boom. Just like that, everyone was imprisoned on the spot. After an unknown period of time, a bell chime sounded between heaven and earth again. At this moment, everyone felt as if thousands of years had passed. When everyone regained consciousness, the chime of the immortal bell also disappeared at the same time. The immortal bell once again returned to its original state, quietly standing above Jun Haotian's head. Rumble. It was also at this moment that another explosion came from the void. It was soul-stirring. Then a shocking scene happened. In the void, the three supreme being weapons above the heads of Demon King Jiao and the others were trembling slightly. This scene caused everyone's pupils to constrict. The supreme being weapons were actually trembling. Countless people suddenly felt a bone-piercing chill in their hearts. What was it that made the supreme being weapons tremble? The supreme being weapons represented the will of a supreme being. Now that the supreme being weapons were trembling, it meant that a supreme being was trembling. What kind of existence could make an honorable supremacy tremble? Could it be that the immortal bell in the hands of the holy son of Haotian had surpassed the supreme being weapon category? After all, if they were all supreme being weapons, how could it suppress three supreme being weapons in an instant? Surpass the supreme being weapon category? Could it be that the immortal bell in the hands of the holy son of Haotian was a treasure from the realm of the gods? At this moment, almost everyone had this thought in their minds. Crack. At this moment, the heavens and earth seemed to shake, and there was a sudden shattering sound. There was a strong sense of sorrow in the sound, causing everyone's heart to tremble. Hearing this sound, the Green Cloud Sacred Leader, the Alcate Sacred Leader, and the Heavenly Sacred Leader's expressions changed drastically. Then they slowly raised their heads and looked up. Then there was a look of disbelief in their eyes as if they had seen something horrifying. Above them there were three supreme being weapons suppressed by the no-beginning bell. The Alcade Cauldron, the Green Cloud Divine Furnace of Creation, and the All-Heaven War Soul Drum had all cracked at the same time. There was a fatal crack on each of the supreme being weapons. It was a frightening sight to behold. If the crack continued to expand, the three supreme being weapons would most likely shatter. Seeing this, the three sacred leaders could not help but hold their breaths. Looking at the cracked supreme being weapons, they felt a chill run down their spines. If the three supreme being weapons were destroyed, then from then on, the Green Cloud Sacred Ground, the All-Heaven Sacred Ground, and the Alcate Sacred Ground would only exist in name. Without the supreme being weapons, the sacred grounds would not have the resources to continue to hold the title. The reason why the 7 sacred grounds of the human tribe could be passed down for hundreds of thousands of years was because of the supreme being weapons. Without the supreme being weapons, how could they be called the human tribe's sacred grounds? If the 3 supreme being weapons were destroyed here, the human tribe would only have the 4 sacred grounds left. Boom. At this moment, the 3 supreme being weapons in the void suddenly vibrated violently. Sorrowful cries could be heard from the supreme being weapons. In the next moment, the 3 supreme being weapons seemed to have awakened their spiritual intelligence. A dazzling divine light suddenly appeared on their bodies, and they actually broke free from the suppression of the bell of no beginning. They directly turned into 3 streams of light that pierced through the entire heaven and earth, and went in 3 different directions. They disappeared. The Supreme Being weapons actually escaped. And all 3 Supreme Being weapons escaped? Seeing this scene, everyone was dumbfounded. The 3 Supreme Being weapons did not even have the courage to face the Bell of No Beginning. They just ran away. What's going on? Why did the 3 Supreme Being weapons disappear? Could it be that the 3 Supreme Being weapons did not dare to fight the Bell of No End and ran away? This is unbelievable. Even the Supreme Being weapons are afraid of fighting. Supreme Being. That's a Supreme Being. An invincible Supreme Being. As an extension of their will, the Supreme Being weapons do not dare to fight? At this moment, countless powerhouses looked at this scene as if they were in a dream. They could not believe what they were seeing. Since the beginning of time, in the hearts of all martial artists, the Supreme Being weapons were the Supreme Beings. This point of view was the same even in the entire Trichiliocosm. Even in the Black-Yellow continent, which was ranked first in the Trichiliocosm, the most powerful being, there was also a Supreme Being weapon. It could be said that in the Trichiliocosm below the realm of the gods, the Supreme Being weapons were the most powerful and invincible beings. But now, under the pressure of the Bell of No End, the Supreme Being weapons actually ran away and disappeared. What did this mean? This meant that a Supreme Being weapon ran away without a fight. Seeing this scene, not only was Demon King Jiao and the rest shocked, but even Tao Xian and the rest were dumbfounded. At this moment, Tao Xian could clearly feel that the Langya landscape illustration in his hand was trembling. Just like the 3 Supreme Being weapons, it was also afraid of the Bell of No End. Tao Xian took a deep look at the Bell of No Beginning. His heart was throbbing. This Bell of No End was so powerful that it could not be any more terrifying. Impossible, this is impossible. How could a Supreme Being weapon run away? At this moment, Saint Master Qing Yun and the rest finally came to their senses, and their faces turned extremely pale. They had never thought that a Supreme Being weapon that had been passed down for hundreds of thousands of years would actually run away at this critical moment. At this moment, even their final trump card had disappeared. How were they going to fight against the Langya sacred ground? As for destroying the Langya sacred ground, that was even more of a pipe dream. Then, at this moment, the 3 holy masters suddenly felt their hearts palpitating. They felt that a peerless crisis was approaching. It was like a surging river and there was no way to avoid it. In the next moment, Demon King Jiao and the rest looked up and were instantly shocked. At this moment, Jun Haotian was standing in the void with the Bell of No End above his head. He was taking one step at a time. With every step he took, the mountains and earth would shake, the void would explode and the stars would dim. When they saw this scene, the hearts of everyone shook and they were extremely terrified. Could it be that the Holy Son of Haotian was going to attack the 5 superpowers? Yes. Now that the 3 Supreme Being weapons of the 5 superpowers had run away, they had lost their trump card to fight against the Langya sacred ground. However, the Holy Son of Haotian still had a terrifying treasure, the Bell of No End. Even a Supreme Being weapon had been scared away by the Bell of No End. How could Demon King Jiao and the rest be a match for the Bell of No End? Once the Bell of No End unleashed its power, it would definitely cause the world to collapse. At this moment, Jun Haotian's expression did not change. Just like before, he looked down on the people of the 5 superpowers. Now, it's time to settle the score. This sentence carried a monstrous murderous intent, and it was terrifying and resolute. It was like the judgment of the god of hell. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. After the previous scene, no one dared to underestimate the Holy Son of Haotian anymore, because they were not qualified to do so. Even though the Holy Son of Haotian was only a young man, he already had the means of a holy master. With his current power, he was not any weaker than a real holy master. He already had the domineering aura of an expert and it was terrifying. Whether it was strength or aura, it was enough to make him one of the top experts in Eastern Wilderness. Although the Holy Son of Haotian's cultivation was only at the peak of the 2nd level of the Transcendence realm. However, for a top genius like him, increasing his cultivation base was never a big problem. In the void, Jun Haotian took a step forward and arrived in front of Demon King Jiao and the rest. He looked down at them condescendingly. A hint of mockery appeared in his eyes. His attitude was the same as when Demon King Jiao and the rest looked at Langya's disciples. But now the 2 of them had swapped positions. The prey had become the hunter. Everyone present could feel Jun Haotian's vast killing intent. It was as if it had materialized. It was as if it wanted to envelop everyone. As long as they were slightly closer, they would be pulled in by that aura. There was no way to retreat. Seeing this scene, everyone present sighed with emotion. In the time it took for a few incense sticks to burn, the situation on the battlefield had undergone an earth-shattering change. This speed of change really made everyone dumbfounded. It was difficult to accept, especially for the 5 major forces in Langya's sacred ground. They had never thought that it would reach such a situation. Now, the Langya sacred ground and the 5 major forces were already in a situation where they would not rest until one of them was dead. There was no room for reconciliation. It was just like how the 5 major forces wanted to exterminate the Langya sacred ground previously. Now that the Langya sacred ground had the upper hand, Jun Haoyin naturally would not show mercy. He wanted to kill all the 5 major forces that had come to invade them. Not a single one would be left alive. Jun Haoyin's style had always been, if others did not offend him, he would not offend them. If others offended him, he would definitely kill them. Sensing the killing intent emanating from Jun Haoyin's body, no one doubted Jun Haoyin's determination. After all, the impression that Jun Haoyin had left on the world in the past was that he was strong and domineering. Especially after he said that sentence, everyone knew that today was destined to be a bloodbath. Let's settle the score. We have only lost temporarily. Seeing Jun Haoyin's domineering attitude, although the Alcade sacred leader was extremely fearful, he still put on a tough face. As the Alcade sacred leader, he could not back down no matter what. This was the dignity of a sacred leader. However, the so-called dignity of the Alcade sacred leader was not even worth mentioning in Jun Haoyin's eyes. At that moment, Jun Haoyin looked coldly at the Alcade sacred leader and said slowly, "Alcade sacred leader, you have inverted right and wrong. You should be killed." He actually declared that he wanted to kill the Alcade sacred leader directly. Just as everyone was stunned, Jun Haoyin made his move at that moment. The immortal bell above his head emitted streaks of sharp light and kept descending. It merged with Jun Haoyin's body. A shocking radiance exploded from his body. In just an instant he appeared in front of the Alcade sacred leader. Without any hesitation or extra movements, Jun Haoyin directly threw out a punch. With a terrifying fist print in his hand, Jun Haoyin directly turned into a transcendent being. Boom! Under the astonishment of countless people, this punch was as vast and boundless as the collision between stars. The Alcade sacred leader's body was cold and his face was pale. However, he still made his move in an instant. However, at that moment, Jun Haoyin not only had the cultivation of the peak immortal longevity realm with the help of the 18 Supremacy's great salvation immeasurable relic, but he also had the immortal bell. Even he himself did not know how powerful he had become with the protection of the immortal bell. Rumble. As though the void had exploded, Jun Haoyin's move this time was extremely terrifying. The Alcade sacred leader had the strength of the immortal creator realm and was extremely powerful. However, in front of Jun Haoyin, who had the infinite bell, he could not withstand a single blow. In just an instant, the Alcade sacred leader's body trembled. His true origin energy was directly dissolved by Jun Haoyin's punch. At that moment, the Alcade sacred leader only felt that he was in a vast river and could be destroyed at any time. His entire body retreated explosively, his chest and shoulders directly exploding, turning into an endless mist of blood. The true origin energy around his body was instantly scattered, and he could not retaliate at all. This scene made countless people's scalps tingle. A lord of a holy land was injured just like that? Just how powerful was the holy son of Haoyin? And this was under the circumstance that he had not awakened the supreme artifact. It was also at this moment that the expressions of Demon King Jiao and the others changed drastically as they retreated slightly. These people were not afraid of Jun Haoyin. In fact, there was nothing in the Langya sacred ground that could make them fearful enough. However, that immortal bell was too terrifying. Even with their strength they could not resist it. If they did not leave, they were afraid that they would be directly dealt with. With a supreme artifact they did not have the strength to fight back at all. Just as they were about to leave, a terrifying aura descended. The immortal bell above Jun Haoyin's head rang faintly. As it rumbled continuously, rays of divine light shot out, enveloping the surrounding 10,000 miles of radiance. He used the supreme artifact to seal the void. Does he not want us to escape? Damn it. Does he really want to deal with us one by one? The Green Cloud sacred leader and the All Heaven sacred leader's faces changed drastically. After sensing that the surrounding void had been sealed, they were infuriated. However, it was useless no matter how angry they were. The void had been sealed by the immortal bell. Even with their strength they could not escape. Let's attack together. Otherwise we will all die here. At this moment the Alcate sacred leader shouted. His body was about to explode and he was covered in blood. He was in an extremely sorry state, and he no longer had the majesty of a sacred leader. However, at this moment Jun Haoyan threw another punch. Boom. Heaven and earth rumbled as the true origin energy collapsed. Half of the Alcade sacred leader's body exploded, and he was in a miserable state. He did want to fight back, but he really could not do it. With the protection of the immortal bell, Jun Haoyan was useless no matter what the Alcade sacred leader did. He could not break through the immortal bell's defense. What Jun Haoyan needed to do was to keep attacking. Bus. In the next moment, the Alcade sacred leader's body recovered. This was the power of an undying realm expert. Other than his head, he could regrow his body. However, doing so would consume his source energy. Once the front part of his source energy was exhausted, he would die. However, the Alcade sacred leader could not care so much now. He could only maintain his peak state. Then he would join forces with Demon King Jiao and the others. Only then would they be able to resist Jun Haoyan's terrifying attack. This was his last hope. Just as the Alcade sacred leader shouted that sentence, Demon King Jiao and the others reacted. Jun Haoyan would not let a single person off today. They could not escape. Instead of being beaten up, they might as well take the initiative to attack. Thinking of this, the four experts joined forces and activated their strongest power. They took out their most terrifying Dharma treasures to break through Jun Haoyan's defense. However, at this moment, Jun Haoyan ignored them and directly appeared above the Alcade sacred leader's head. He threw out another punch with great force as if a god had descended. At this moment, the Alcade sacred leader's head exploded. In the blink of an eye, blood rained down. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.